Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, it's my Holy Wars vanquished nemesis. It's Tom. How you doing, Tom?
Hello, friends.
Got it in right up top, buddy. I told you I was going to mention it right at the top of the show. Anyway, also joining us, the one, the only, the original Holy Hammer himself, the holiest of hammers, perhaps. I don't know.
Hello.
Steve Herner. How you doing, buddy?
Hi, everybody.
The TO of the recent Holy Wars that Tom and I attended this last weekend. We're going to talk all through the tournament. We're going to talk with Steve, who got to play some in his own tournament, thanks to the help of many other Holy Hammers who were standing up. Especially, I know Mr. Vargas was running around like a crazy person all weekend. So big shout out to him as well.
Yeah, indeed.
And so we're going to go Tom and I aren't going to talk about each of our games in depth. If you want to know more about that, we did a recap video in the car on the way home. Part of it's more of a podcast because the video stopped working, but the audio is clean. I went and listened to the audio, and the audio is clean the whole time. So who watches these things anyways? Aren't you all painting? Why are you looking at me? You should be painting. All right. So
True.
And so that's what this is for. But at any rate, let's start out with a little news because we've got some. There's some news. It's a little news, but it's also big news. Somehow it's both.
A wee little bit of news. Rumor engine?
Sure, we can start with the rumor engine. Yeah, that's fine, Tom. I'll bring up the rumor engine. I have it right here. I'm sorry, I had it up and then I switched my focus. I apologize.
I'm disappointed.
No, we talked about something else and I accidentally switched the page. All right. So, because I brought up the photos for later tonight for Holy Wars. So,
Yep.
All right. Let's share up this picture of one of the other Night Titans that's coming. There you go.
Yep.
Doesn't really say much.
Yeah. Enjoy this 40K thing. We've been getting a lot of 40K rumor engine picks.
They're warning us that in the next year, 40K may release some stuff.
Right.
Because there are still rumor engine stuff we don't have. There's not.
Checking your swing.
Yeah, I checked my swing. I don't want everybody to get too drunk too quick.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we know that they spoiled the little mini Titan.
Yep.
Right. And we know that there's another Night Titan. So, like, apparently there's going to be 3 Night Titans in the Night Titan mini family going up above, like, into the big Night Titan family, like the Warhounds and, the things that are basically small children. I think this is one of those.
I will make a small children army.
I mean, you only need one. That is your army. It's it is the army.
Do they make models for that, or do I have to kit bash that?
No, you can go buy it from Forge World for the low price of like $1,700 or something. I mean, that's without shipping.
Oh yeah,
no
free shipping after $250.
Oh, good point. They might make an exception there. Maybe shipping comes back above $1,000. It's too much. They're literally shipping you the equivalent of like a 3-year-old.
Well, right, because you're clearing out storage space in the warehouse. We're gonna pay you to take the stuff.
But yeah, that's my guess because this is photoshopped out down here.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And this looks like a joint of something. I mean, I don't know. Either that or it's like because it's got pipes, right,
Yep.
and it's flowing into some kind of engine piece that attaches to something. I don't know. That was my guess. I just want my other little Titans. That's what I know. But all right, there you go. Rumor engine.
So this week, the Daughters of Cain, we continue to get lots of Daughters of Cain stuff, just like all of the Daughters of Cain stuff. And with the reviews that came this last weekend, also the leaks began. Let's start there. And I could talk about Daughters until my face goes purple because that's an appropriate color for them. But what I'll say is that, what was the most significant was the actual name of the new upcoming Fishman faction was spoiled, and because they are allies for the new Daughters of Cain. So in the Daughters of Cain book, when you go to the bottom in the points chart in the allies, it says Edoneth, Deepkin as allies. In the lore that was spoiled, we find out that Edoneth, Deepkin were each of the elven gods got elvish souls to forge, and The Edeneth Deepkin were Teclis's first attempt at forming elves, but they were kind of discarded into the depths because he didn't like them or something. Reasons is why he got rid of them. And what ended up happening was Malekith was like, hey.
The reason is because thousands of years in the future,
yes,
or in an innumerable number of years in the future, Teclis is still an arrogant jerk.
Yeah, and he's like, these aren't good enough. I need better. So you're out. And what happened is they went the way of the dodo. And Malekith's like, hey, what's up with that? I'll take some of that. And so Malekith stepped in with his forming and formed these Deepkin as well and influenced them.
So do we know if he at this time was still going by the name Malekith?
Well, no, it was Malarian. Like in the lore, Malarian stepped in. Sure. What I will say is that
they retconned him, by the way.
What do you mean?
So there's an interesting subtle retcon that happened with Malarian in between the original book and this book.
Yep.
When they give, it could be an unreliable narrator thing, but whatever.
Yep.
When they give the background of Marathi, like Slaanesh vomits up Marathi.
Yes.
Right? Like that's literally the
way. Such a nasty, like just bleh.
She's tenacious. What can you say?
Yeah, I guess so.
So
she's not very appetizing.
Yeah, she crawls out like Boba Fett. Okay. and she summons a bunch of like shadow demon cohorts and stuff. And, she now looks like she looks. Her monstrous form is her real form because she's been warped by being that close to chaos. Like she was near chaos radiation for a long time. Yes. And
chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Maybe in the kidneys, maybe in the we don't know. Way down.
Thanks.
So she crawls out. She looks like a giant snake monster. She makes friends with like the shadow demons in Ulgu and learns how to cloak herself in shadow. Like it builds back up enough power to cloak herself to look like little Marathi.
Yep.
And goes and finds Malarian. Now, originally, the story they tell is that like
Malarian stumbles upon Marathi.
Well, no, it's like originally the story was Malarian was kind of like didn't remember who he was and was very foggy and all of that, right? And is sort of like not all there.
Right. And he stumbles upon Marathi in a bacchanal with shadow demons around her.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Okay, I see what you're saying now. Whereas here in this new story, like she finds him and he's already a god. Like all the other elves have become gods and she's jealous.
Right.
Like Tyrion, Teclis, and Malarian have all ascended. And she's pissed because she's the one who didn't get to ascend out of the old family. Right. It's like when you go to a family reunion and everybody's real successful and doing well, and you're just sort of getting by at your job at Burger King. Like that's where she's living.
Well,
right?
She's being processed.
Sure. And so whatever. There's a lot of other nuance to the story, but I'll let people get the book to find out. But it was just interesting because it was like a slight change of having Malarian more like established and capable when he meets her. They do talk about them building. They gave away the name of the capital city that he builds because he builds like this massive city in Ulgu that we haven't seen yet. But he himself is the king of like a new, massive capital. So
yep. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm super excited to see where the elf lore goes. It seems like that's a big part of this whole, like, where we're going, basically.
So do you guys think that each, when they start releasing the other factions, each one will have an ascended version? So we'll get an ascended version, Malekith, and then ascended Malekith as Malaran, and so on and so forth. Since they are gods.
Maybe not. I would like it, but I don't think that we'll necessarily see that. I mean, we haven't seen Sigmar. We have seen Alariel. We have Nagash. We have Marathi, who's trying to get to godhood.
I mean, yes, there'll be. I will actually take this side. Yes, we'll absolutely see a Tyrion, a Teclis, and a Malarian model because they realize that making those models are printing money. They also provide for a very unique opportunity for the sculptor. They make amazing centerpieces for your army. But Malarian won't look anything like old Malekith. Like I think that the transformational mechanic that Marathi has, like this will be the only time we see this for a little while. I can think of a couple other places to use it, but like I doubt we'll see Tyrion and Teclis have that sort of thing. They'll just have new forms, and same with Malarian. He's gonna look like a weird bat demon thing. Like he's gonna look freaking weird. So get into it. He is not gonna look like his old self. Nope. He is going to be a weird, twisted bat demon monster. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm excited is what I would say. And again, we still have continued stuff coming out for Daughters of Cain. We're not going to go into too in-depth review right now. We'll be digging into that when we have the book in hand.
Yes. So book comes this weekend. We'll read it. And we'll talk about it on next week's show. We'll do a deep dive next week on all the Daughters of Cain juiciness. Try to extract all the good, the bad, and the ugly right out of it.
Yeah. So let's one of the other things that dropped this last week was that a new terrain kit is coming, folks. That's what I like to see. Bam! All the terrain right there. Love it. It's all in boxes.
Is that why you're sitting in that chair today, just so you could show the terrain?
No, I had a meeting and I didn't want to move all my stuff.
Gotcha.
So, and the lighting's a little bit better over here. So,
fair enough.
Yeah. New terrain, and it's stackable, and it comes in like a box with like a mat stuff to play area to play on, and then it also comes with and then like 2 different sets of ruins. They're not identical. So what comes in like the $80 like box set and what comes in just the ruins pack, like the $30 ruins pack, are very similar, and they're compatible, but there are different pieces in them.
Yep,
and you can tell that from the actual pictures.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting some of those. I'm definitely getting one of the smaller packs.
Why are you getting one of the smaller packs, Vince?
To chop it into pieces and use it as basing material and as things for flying monsters. I'm not going to make a single piece of actual terrain out of it. Not one. The same thing I've done with the Arcane Ruins. I have that whole set. I've been chopping it up slowly, just sawing it into pieces, using it as stands for flying mounds, and I will continue. You can't make me make proper terrain. I won't do it.
Your holy board, or your board at Holy Wars this week spoke to that.
Absolutely. It was functional. It held all my models. It had a nice little lava stream.
It did. And a couple barrels.
And some barrels. It had barrels on it.
Okay, moving on.
What story he was trying to tell?
That the orcs.
You're gonna explain it. All right, go ahead.
The orcs live in a barren wasteland that they didn't bother to fill or with crap or build up. That's the story I'm telling.
Great.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Good job, Vince.
Nice job. Well done. Well, it obviously didn't hurt you in the end result, so.
Well, no, because he won painting. That's why he won painting.
Right. Painting.
I am perfectly fine with that. We'll talk about results later, but I have...
Everybody knows what you won. We don't need to review it. Stop tooting your own horn like a Heraldor.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
I'm not even the one who brought it up.
Okay, moving on. 40K Warhammer 40K Conquest monthly subscription service for paint, brushes, models, and a magazine. £8 per issue, UK. Man, how awesome would it be to get like a Warhammer box, like a subscription box?
Yeah, there's a couple different subscription boxes being tested right now from various people, but none of them have, and I'm interested to see how someone worked out. There was the model box a little while back. There's another new one floating around that I'm going to take a look at, but none of them.
Landmines, by the way, for those that know,
stim packs.
Doing them. And man, there's some value in those boxes that he's shipping out.
Indeed.
So if you all want a good deal to jumpstart your hobby, go pick up one of those Landmines starter boxes.
Yeah, he calls them stim packs. And what's he doing them for? $50 or something, right?
$50, and you're going to get like a trooper box that's probably going to be worth 40 to 50 retail. And then they're doing like multiple characters, some hobby stuff, some paint or wash or whatever. And there's something else in one of those, like dice or I don't know, some other hobbying thing.
Paint and glue.
Yeah, paint, glue, and all that stuff. So
Yeah, and this one's interesting because like this is clearly GW taking a test,
yes,
right?
yes.
Like it's a weekly thing, but it shows up once a month. So like you get all 4 issues and the whole paints and all the minis. You're getting like 3 minis or so, or 3 to 5 minis per issue. You get a couple paints, you get a brush or 2, right? Like, and it's all £8 or whatever that. Yeah, like the normal price £8. They have the introductory, blah blah blah, cheaper. Let us get you hooked on the crack
Free
price,
stuff. Like semi-free stuff. Yeah,
yeah, but like the it's not a bad deal by any stretch. Like what you're vis-a-vis what you get. But it's clearly them like UK only so they can control the shipping cost and stuff like that, right? And but they're clearly testing the waters. If this takes off, they'll expand it to other games. We could see an AOS version. They'll take it worldwide to certain other countries where they know they could control things like that, right? So it's cool. I like to see them testing the waters for stuff like this. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But I want to keep seeing them try stuff like this. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yep.
Okay. So there you go. There's that. Yes, it's like called Warhammer 40,000 Conquest is what it is. So, yep. You get little painting guides and stuff like that. It looks nice. The one piece of news that I don't think I wrote down on the news thing today, but I did want to mention is obviously this weekend is the Warhammer Age of Sigmar weekend, right? So we could very well see some announcements this weekend. Something could get spoiled. I imagine we'll see something Internet Deepkin related now that the secret's out.
Yeah, we'll see something Deepkin related.
But at the same time, we've got that Gamma and Adepticon all in the next month. Right?
Yep.
So like they've got to split up a lot of reveals because they're doing something at every one of those things.
Yep.
And they're not going to do the same exact thing at those things. So je sais pas. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what we get. I mean, clearly we're not just going to get AOS, right? My question is when do we get AOS stuff? I would love it.
AOS weekend, right?
Yeah, it is. So it would make sense, certainly, that if they're going to show the internet, we'd see it here, or some portion of it. I'll say this. I would love it if the internet were like completely spoiled by the time we got to Adepticon and we instead got some other thing farther out in the future. Like a little...
It'd be like a new Shadespire warband or something.
Probably. You're probably right. Which that could be cool too. If they showed us 2 new Shadespire warbands, that'd be cool. I'd be down with that.
Yeah, especially if one is Kharadron Overlords.
Nah. No way. You already got some stunties. Let's get some other factions in there.
Well, I mean, the elves will probably be quick behind, right? I mean, now that there's 2 elven factions, there's got to be some elves showing up at some point. Yeah, exactly. Like, it just makes too much sense for them not to have also had 4 sculpts handy to jump into Shadespire. So,
right.
Yeah. So I look forward to that. I'm sure there'll be big news this weekend. We'll be watching. We'll talk about that next week, of course, whatever comes out. I doubt it will necessitate any emergency podcasts, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, it could happen.
It could happen. You never know. Like sometimes these things blow up. I mean, we did a whole emergency video when that Daughters of Cain thing dropped, and it was worth every bit of it.
Because it was hot.
It was hot. I've watched that video. I watch that video every day. That's not a lie. I created a playlist with that video as the first item. That's my getting pumped up and painting Daughters of Cain playlist.
You're a weird man.
He is.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say I'm already... Yeah, anyways, we'll move on. Yeah.
Right on. Okay.
I was gonna start talking about Holy War stuff, and I was like, I'll save that.
Sure. Programming there.
Paul says that Blood Warriors and Vanguard are next. Interesting.
Oh,
because they're in the Shadespire book. Yeah. That's a good point. I forgot that they were in there.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
I mean, whatever. That doesn't mean it's the only 2, but sure. Because like we know they're going to do it in seasons, and a season would necessitate if we had a window into season 2, we might see a bigger thing, right? Yeah. A bigger number than just 2.
Do we know yet when season 2 kicks off?
No, they made it an indeterminate amount of time.
Yeah,
purposefully. So who knows? All right. Any other news, Tom? Is that the end of the news?
I mean, there was a pretty shocking event that happened in the gaming in general this last week that's kind of worth mentioning. And that's Palladium's dropping the ball on Robotech RPG. It was a $1.5 million Kickstarter that Palladium defaulted on.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So that just happened. Yeah.
That's a big number.
Yeah, they lost their license and it's a mess. Yeah.
Wow. I had not heard about that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's exploding, and now they're offering what product that they do have printed. They're offering it to the backers, because the license is up in March, at the end of March. And so rather than renewing their license, they're just going to let it go. And they haven't completed all their stuff. And so they can't sell any more product, and they're required to liquidate because of the license. They're required to liquidate by the end of the month.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So that doesn't happen for established game companies too often. So
how do you see that changing the scene? Or do you?
I don't.
It probably won't. I mean, Palladium was already a somewhat untrustworthy bet.
Yeah.
They don't have a real good track record in the long term. And so I know a lot of people, when I was kind of watching it, they were already saying they weren't so sure about this, because this thing back in 2013 or something.
Yeah.
So we're at the 5-year mark for this Kickstarter.
Yikes.
Yeah. So, I mean, should we be surprised?
I mean, I mean, some Kickstarters blow up. That's the thing. It's always a risk, right? It's not a sure delivery thing. That's what it is. There are risks. That's why they force you to list your risks in every Kickstarter that you do. Because it's not a sure thing. You're not pre-buying product, even though that's how it gets treated most of the time, right?
Yep.
You are backing a project and saying, here is money I'm willing to give you to try to make your vision a reality.
Yeah, and I mean, I back enough Kickstarters that obviously I'm generally following the scene, and so this cropped up, and I was like, oh, that's interesting and unfortunate. So, but I thought I'd at least mention it.
No, that is a very interesting thing. I think on the whole, Kickstarter is robust enough at this point. It survived its peak and stayed healthy and plateaued out, and it'll probably continue to plateau. It's now become as much of a platform for established companies to fish, market demand out as anything
Reaper.
else.
Reaper does their regular Kickstarter.
Yep. So it's just become another distribution method.
Yep. So yeah, I don't think it's going to change anything too much. It'll probably make some backers a little bit more hesitant. So if you're looking at the numbers, probably over the next 6 months to a year, you'll see a dip. You'll see lower peaks. But in the long run, I don't know if it's going to affect anything too much.
Right. Okay. Cool. Let's talk about some pick of the week. It's a good little interesting news tidbit.
You're welcome.
So Steve, you've got a big old pick of the week you want to share with everybody.
Yeah, I do. Well, it's official. Holy Havoc 3 is going to launch. It's our Age of Sigmar narrative team event, and it's November 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 2018. Registration is going to be opening at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on April 18th. So mark your calendars. The event fills up really, really fast. Last year, Havoc filled up in under 5 minutes. So it actually fills up faster than Holy Wars does. It's because it's just so mark your calendars and get ready to go, because we're going to be rolling. And you can find all the information up there at havoc.holywarsgt.com. And a tweet from my Holy Hammer Hearn Twitter feed just went out. So there's a link in there. Go ahead and check it out and get ready to go. And just like always, if you get on the wait list, don't fret, because people on the wait list typically get in. So it's encouraged to make sure you sign up for the wait list.
Yep. The link to the site will be in the show notes, as will Steve's Twitter. So you should follow him if you're not already. But obviously both of those will be down there, so you can check it out after.
Oh, and it's 40. Last year we had, if you recall, we only had 32 players when we first opened registration, but then we expanded to 40. So this year we're starting out with 40 right away. So we're going to have the same amount as last year.
Very nice. It's going to be a great field. I've already started. I've already come back. Started working on the army for Holy Havoc. So there you go.
You don't even have rules yet for that army. Let me.
I don't need those rules. Those are pointless. Rules don't matter.
We
don't need rules. That's exactly right, Tom. That's right, baby. All right, Tom, what do you got?
You know, I saw something that pop up my feed today, and it's an official thing, but it's worth. I'm gonna spruik it anyways.
Sure, why not?
The Warhammer community page had an article today, very close to my heart. They did an army preview, and it was an army preview of a Nurgle army.
Ugh.
That was all done up as a homage to the Carnival of Chaos from Mordheim.
Yeah.
And so everything was like carnival master stuff and circus stuff and like Sloppity, Bile Piper, and all of the Nurglings and all that stuff fits perfect, you know, in the midst of that. And everything was like custom paint jobs and conversions, and the dude did a really good job. It had the little like caravan wagon and everything for the carnival. Like it was a great set of conversions. And a great.
Do you have the link for it, Tom?
I do, and it'll be in the show notes.
Okay. You said it's on the community page, right?
It's on the community page. Yep. And it was an army preview. So the individual that submitted the army basically wrote the article. So and then the GW people went up.
Looking at it now.
Yeah, it's a nice, they did a good job.
No, it's really, all right.
I like the Be'lakor. I'm a big fan of like the Spring Master Be'lakor.
I like the popcorn.
Yeah.
That's good. I can, that's good stuff. Even though I hate Nurgle.
Yes, more hatred of Nurgle.
Nurgle can suck a rotten egg.
Yeah,
I'm sure
you had some rough experiences with Nurgle. Touched you.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. All right, we'll get into that later. I like the banner on the Herald. That's cool. That's some really nice looking freehand work there. That's pretty cool.
Indeed.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a good job, and I wanted to promote it because, like, anytime that kind of hobby, that kind of work goes into something like that, I want people to get their due.
No, very cool. We'll put the link down below. My pick of the week is for our buddy Robert at the Miniatures Paintbrush, who had an awesome little video that I thought was super useful information, especially as I know the UK is gripped right now in Snowmageddon. There is snow on the ground in England, and apparently it's big news. So
by snow on the ground, for those in the US that don't know, like a light flurry of maybe an inch and a half is on the ground in the UK.
It's not true all over the place. Some places got really heavy snow, man. But anyway, regardless of the jokes, he had a great video about decanting rattle cans for airbrush use. Okay. So other types of things that you might want to use. So for example, I'll actually get something that he shows you in the video. One of my favorite things that I like to use is my Tester's Dull Coat. This is the only finishing varnish I will trust. Okay, because it won't frost on you very easily. Nothing is completely frost proof, but it's pretty hard to do it. And this is perfectly matte. He will show you how to, like, the normal existing airbrush varnishes, like Vallejo matte varnish, is not actually matte. It has a sheen to it. And so he shows you how to take this and decant it for airbrush use, so you can use it inside.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is super cool. So that's a good video. I will link it down below for those of you who have an airbrush and we're wanting to use some things that are normally rattle can through your airbrush. This is a good way to do it.
Vince, that's standard for all rattle cans then? It will work on all? Because, I mean, you don't want it to blow up in your face, right? So,
yeah, he walks you through some examples of what works well and what doesn't. So
okay, cool. Really cool. I'll have to check that out, especially for some of that iridescent or like color shift spray paints you can find out there.
Sure.
Might be kind of cool.
All right. So let's turn to some hobby time, gentlemen. As I know that Adepticon Prep, hashtag Adepticon Prep, is in full swing across the country. Everywhere people are furiously painting. I saw Chuck Moore tweet out his like list of things to do before Adepticon today. And when buy miniatures is on your list, like not just put them together, but he actually had like buy the thing, build the thing, paint the thing, and there were multiple the things. Good luck, Chuck. That's all I gotta say, man. I hope you can do it. But Adepticon Prep is in full swing. So, Steve, what are you working on, buddy?
I am working on the final touches for, well, not the final touches. I'm working on the Hallowed Doom, the 1,000 points of Hallowed Doom Knights for my for the team tournament. They're going to be teamed up with my Sylvaneth. So that's what I'm working on. I may or may not have one more model to do for Sylvaneth. I have an extra Lord of our Son of Durthu. I might take a look at that and finish that up. It was pretty much ready to go, and I have tweeted out pictures of it, but there's some final detail little things I'd like to do on it that I didn't get to. Yeah, so that's about it, and that's what I'm painting right now. These little Stormcasts.
Yes, we're very excited to see the Doom bots hit the table, man. I'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's gonna be they're gonna look good next to the Sylvaneth. I didn't think what I'm doing is I'm painting them up for my son Quinn. It's a tradition for me to take my son out of school and have them come play with me at the team tournament now. So nice. Reed got to do it his senior year, and now Quinn's going to get to do it. It's his senior year, and then eventually Ethan. But Quinn was like, "Yeah, Dad, I want to play your Hallowed Doom Knights," and I'm like, "All right, cool." And so he picked the models that he wanted me to paint up. He looked at the capes and he found the ones that he liked the best. And then we were trying to figure out his list, and I actually had to paint up a Griffhound to round up the 1,000 points. Yeah,
nice.
So I think I'm going to leave my my Griffhounds more canine-like as opposed to feline. So I don't think I'm going to be doing like the stripy.
No spots or anything like that.
I don't think so. But she right now it's kind of painted up in the tones of my Sylvaneth. The greens and yellows and purples and stuff. So it's gonna. I think it'll look cool. I'm pretty excited about it. So it'll be great to get them out. I won't have them all done. I was thinking about playing multiple armies. Vanguard, play Stormcast, then maybe for the championships play Sylvaneth, but. Decided against that after how much fun I had playing the trees at Holy Wars this past
You're playing trees all week?
Damn right. Gnarlroot is not dead, Tom.
All right. Awesome. I look forward to that. Are you going to speak in third person the entire time when you're piloting the Doom Knights with him? Or are you going to have your son speak in the third person?
No, of course. All right.
Yeah, as would be appropriate.
Yeah. Victor won't be there though, Vince. So Victor's still on the conversion table, the building table. Eventually Victor will make his debut. I finally found how I want Victor to be, and he'll make an appearance, but let me put it this way, my Prime had his wings clipped.
Sure, of course.
In favor of Victor's, typical the way Victor would propel himself through the sky as opposed to having seraphim wings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When the judge comes around to look at your paint, do you just like run and tackle him and be like, "No one judges Doom"?
Well, I didn't consider that, so it will depend on who's judging my paint. So
Sorry, Alex.
I'm just saying you got to stay in character. So, okay. All right, Tom, what about you, buddy? What are you working on?
Well, I'm feeling pretty lazy.
Sure.
After my Holy Wars push. So
you've still got an Adepticon push, so don't stay lazy for too long, buddy.
No, so I may not.
22 days, man. 22.
I may not do my Nurgle for Adepticon.
You're so funny. You need your own. You need your own little looks like whatever's back on the menu thing.
Yeah,
like you're just exactly. You two are as bad as each other.
Maybe. No, I thought about so I was looking at 1,000, so I'm doing 1,000 point for those that I haven't mentioned. I'm doing 2,000 point games on Tuesday. I'm doing the team's 1,000 on Friday. I'm sorry, the 2,000s on Thursday, the team 1,000 on Friday, and I'm doing the championship Saturday, Sunday. And I was gonna run. I'm planning on running different lists for all those. I was going to run a Nurgle list for one of those. But I really have enjoyed playing my dwarves.
Then do it.
And so I may just run my dwarves all weekend. In a bunch of different variations.
I think you should. I think you should.
So
your dwarves.
Yeah. So to that end, I instead of having a big push fence, I have 7 models that I need to paint. For some allies and stuff like that for Acon, and then
you know what you should be running for one of the 1,000 point games. I'm not going to say what it is, but you know what
you want me to run Festus and the Furies.
No, I don't. First of all, that would be awesome. But no, we schemed up a list for him.
You want me to run the other one?
Yeah, we schemed up a list for him called Festus and the Furious, which was fantastic. But at any rate, that's not what I'm talking about.
You want me to run the other list.
The one you only need to paint 11 models for, correct?
Right, because the whole list is 12 models.
Yeah, that is correct, Tom.
Yeah. It's your Nurgle list?
No, that's another list. Oh, yeah, you're right. There is another list that Vince. Then I have to come up with a board for that for 1,000 points. And I don't want to paint a board.
Whatever, man. Just do it. Don't 3, 2, 1. Do it. Don't give me excuses. Put it on something. Put it on something simple.
Depending on where we're at. So I've been working on the last couple of my dwarf models. I have 7 of those. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to put my Custodes together. And we're going to see what's going to happen there. So the first one was assembled. He is done. I have a 40K miniature in my house that has been completed.
Way to go, man.
Thanks. And so so we're going to see where this is going to go.
Probably to some Retributor armor spray paint. And then washes and done.
Yeah, a little bit of dry brushing, a little bit of higher gold, and maybe some red or purple splashed around.
I wish I could do that, dude. I can't. I've
never done it. This is actually my first fast paint. Like these, I'm gonna do these, and if these go well as a fast paint, I have a Stormcast army that I'm gonna quick paint.
Yeah, I was when I was looking at the Custodes at Saturday night at Holy Wars. I've been thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, what would I do? And so of course I have a different color scheme in mind. Like I don't want them all in gold, right? I want them in something else. So yeah, I wish I could just.
I'm gonna do the gold because I want to do the gold, but I also want to try the But I think I'm gonna, instead of going red, I'm gonna go purples, and then my energy glows are gonna be green.
Jerk. That's what I wanted.
Yeah,
right.
it's the right choice. That's the challenge. It's the right color choice with gold.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, Steve. Apparently, not only do I steal lists, I also steal schemes.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going with gold, so you're okay.
I mean, to be fair, you're
harshly.
Purple and gold. Welcome to stealing from the French kings who stole from like Roman emperors who stole from Egyptian pharaohs. Like, yeah, purple and gold's been a pretty great color combination for 5,000 years of human history.
I can take credit for that, and that Tom stole my. So shut up, Vince.
Hey, I don't mind clearly ruining other people's hobby.
Sure. No, fair enough.
That's obvious with the armies you bring.
That's right. I definitely agree with that. So 2 quick answers to some comments. Somebody asked if I'm playing at the Shadespire Adepticon. I'm not. I'm not playing in anything. Playing
0 formal events.
Right. I'll be around to play some games and pick up games at night with people, but I'm teaching classes like the whole weekend. And then other than that, not doing much, because if you're teaching a class for like 3 or 4 hours, it's a bit intense. That being said,
come watch me play Warhammer.
Yeah, I'll watch other people play and stuff like that.
You want to play against the Doom Knights?
What's that?
We should play 1,000 games against the Doom Knights, bro.
Absolutely, man. I'm down. So I'll have my army there, and like the goal is to play some 1,000-point quick games at night. That's exactly it. Just relax, unwind, low pressure, have some fun 1,000-pointers. So I'll definitely be down for that. the plus the hall is like empty at that time of night too, so it's great. You got any table you want. And then I actually have some more painting classes that should be going up this week. So I don't know, like they'll be in a different web cart thing
at Acon.
Yeah. It's the first year they're trying these like longer, smaller, more intense classes, but because of that, they have to do a different web cart for them. So Michelle Blastonbury is putting it all together, and she should have the link for me this week. So there you go. So if you missed out on the other ones, but you want to learn something with me, or you just want to come hang out in a painting class or whatever, those will be available this week. There'll only be 4 slots per class, so they'll go fast probably.
So real limited,
but they're long, like very intense classes. So there you go. Well, like what I mean is we go through the whole thing. We're teaching top to bottom. One of them is on blending. So like, if you've had challenges with blending, it's going to be an intense, like 3-hour training session on achieving smooth blends. So there you go.
Nope. Got that one down.
Sure. Flawless. So, for my hobby time, I finished up my girl. Okay. She's done. She's not on her base yet. She's for my entry for Crystal Brush, and then probably for Warhammer Fest. Okay.
Is that the one you got at the raffle?
No, God, no. I couldn't paint that this quick. This is like 100+ hours of work right here. I haven't had that much time.
Your camera, it looks like it's only been primed.
Yeah, I know, dude.
Sure.
Right, Tom? Right? He says it's done, and you look at it, it just looks like it's been zenithal highlighted. What the hell?
I mean, basically, that's all I ever do, right? I mean, that's just it. Like, that's how I paint. It's just some quick zenithal and then a glaze, and you're done.
Yeah, right.
100 hours later.
Yeah. So, like, I've got all the components done. Like, that's the background to the miniature there, like, that'll be behind her.
Oh, yeah.
And all of that. I've got her nameplate done. But you might say, but Vince, if all this is done, why isn't she sitting on her base?
Yeah, because you're terrible at pouring bases. That's
correct. Because resin takes forever to cure, and I'm going to have to clean it up anyways. But that's because I'm still waiting on this to finish solidifying, right? And the way that I test it, because I don't want to touch it, because I don't want to mess it up, is I have the rest of this, because I mixed way too much of this. And this is obviously a lot more of it. And so until this is solid, I'm not going to touch that. And this is obviously a lot thicker and will take longer than that.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's done tomorrow, but it's pretty close, but it's still like thumpy soft and kind of sticky.
Yeah. Do you ever get that moment where you don't get it right, Vince, and you have to re-pour?
Sure. I mean, I did it like 3 times on the initial pour yesterday, getting more and more successfully pissed every time.
Right, exactly. Like, gosh darn it, what was wrong in that ratio?
Yeah, exactly. So the advantage is that so I'm using magic water for this, which is actually like the 2-part water epoxy.
Yeah,
I like it. It's just
I've used it.
Yeah. It's it doesn't shrink at all, which is really nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were actually good at pouring resin and didn't have it leak places, it'd be even better.
Well, get lots of experience, Vince, and we're gonna have some conversations about my Holy Wars board next year.
It's way easier for stuff like that. I can do a pour on a surface like that easy. It's on a small surface where there's a flat edge. It's very hard.
I always have a problem with that. I meant to talk to Trunzo this past weekend about how he did his board.
Yeah, he had a nice channel, so I suspect he locked both sides, and that's the trick. Like, you've got to have a completely flat or contained area that you can push.
Whatever he used was perfect. Like, when I was looking at the display board, I was down there eye level, looking through the resin, and it was perfect. Like, I'm not sure what he used to clamp that off, but every time I do it, it just doesn't turn out so nice. Now, he may have had some small, imperfections in it. He may have buffed it out.
Sure.
But it looked pretty stellar. It was really good.
I totally agree. Like, his water effects were fantastic, man.
Yeah. It was
I love, by the way, I saw on his Twitter that he's already adding more stuff to that board. Like already, like immediately when he got back, he started adding to it. So there you go.
Yeah, it's going to be a real interesting round of hobby competition for Akon.
He 1 year for Holy Wars, he actually had live plants in his display board.
That was his Wanderers board.
First year, I think. Yeah,
I remember that.
That's awesome. Well, that dude sets a bar on the display board, no doubt.
I know. I was terrified.
Sure, he does great work.
It was close, Tom. It was very, very close.
I'm sure it was.
Marak, we already talked about doing the complete underwater army. You do the whole army, you paint the whole army, you put them in a fish tank, you pour resin in the whole fish tank. You never play the army again, but it's got the best display board in the history of the world.
It'll win. It'll just lose all of its games, although it might win the painting.
Yeah. Yep. So there you go. All right. So also for hobby time. So I've done that. That's done. What I was also really doing this evening was getting together, gluing together, and then priming the best kit in the world. The best kit. Just the best. Because it is now the best value for your money. And that is getting my
Oh my god. You mean the new GW Hero box?
the hero box.
That's what we like to call it.
It didn't even really lock in my head of how ridiculous this box is now until I was thinking about the army list and what you actually get out of this Coven Throne.
Yeah.
Right. So, because this is going to be the Medusa one. So you've got the Medusa on Coven Throne, and you've got a Slaughter Queen, and you've got a Hag Queen, and you get the statue, right? So out of this one box, I've got a big monster chariot, a monster, and two other heroes, right? So basically a hero chariot, a normal monster, and then two other foot heroes. It's ridiculous how many different things, like your entire hero brigade comes out of one of these boxes.
Yep.
So I'm glad I got three.
And back when you could buy the throne with the witch elf unit. Like you're getting all those heroes. Yeah, you're getting all those heroes for $40 because the witches alone are 60 for 10, which is just insane. It's just an insane amount of value now, which is something I never thought I would say about the Coven Throne.
Yeah, it really turned around when they suddenly made everything into a character. Like normally you're paying $30 or $40 for a single hero. Nope. Just heroes everywhere. Just spilling out of this box. So that's great. So yeah, I'm excited about this thing. So I put all of this together, I changed mine around a little. I didn't do it like its normal little assembly just because I felt like being difficult and wanted the Medusa to sit in a different place.
Sub-assemble it, Vince?
Because I didn't want to, because I already had sub-assemblies. I left like the little cauldron off, but like most of this thing is just metal. It's mostly just the same thing. Like it's all the same material, right? Like it's all the frame and everything. So like the only thing that I'll probably paint different is the stairs like they do.
Yeah.
And I can go back in and do that afterward.
Yeah, I'm after I get my Custodes at least like assembled, sprayed, washed, and dry brushed. I was thinking about putting my sisters together.
Yeah, I mean the sub-assembly is the characters, right? Like I didn't put the cauldron in since I want to be able to do the water and pour and blood effects and stuff separately. Yeah. But all the characters aren't sitting on it, right? They're on their own little things. That's the stuff that to me actually need to be different. This is all one metal material or something close to it, right? So there you go. Anywho, so I'm excited about that. Getting into them daughters. Let's bring it on. Because it's going to be a little while until I get my full shipment of, the whole thing, of like all the Melusai and stuff like that. But I got plenty of that coming too. And it's going to be fun. Let's move on past that since we've danced around this issue all night, and let's talk about Holy Wars. So, Steve, do you want to start out for our audience here with a little overview of the last weekend's tournament, kind of the basic premise and how you thought it went overall?
Sure. Well, overall, I would say it was a big success. We did something different this year. We added in Twist and Ruse deck to each table. so I think it was well received by some players. Some players, it dramatically changed their games. Tom.
Nope.
Yeah. So, but it was well received, and it worked in the manner that I was hoping it would work. How it would work. Here at the club, we tend to use open war all the time, so we have a lot of fun with it, and so that was the little thing that we wanted to do. And for some of the viewers that may not know, when you come to a holy event, it's different from the year before, right? We always try to find something new to do, and this year it was the twist and ruse, and obviously your list construction and how we did things with your sidebar and limiting the command. You had to cycle through your command traits, your artifacts, stuff like that. That was looking at my notes. We had some players the Tzeentch players had to do a lot of bookkeeping. Yep. It wasn't a bad thing. In fact, the feedback I got primarily from Brad and from Sean was that they loved it. They thought it was cool. They liked the fact that they played models that they may have never played before. And that was the statement I got from a lot of players, actually. There were other players who said the same thing, like Stephen Thompson mentioned how he would have never played the Tree Lord assassination build, but he did at Holy Wars. So that's kind of cool because you get locked in and you kind of just play your list and you don't really experiment once you find what you like. And even myself, I'm pretty much locked in with how I play my Tree Lord Ancient, so it was nice having the opportunity to play in the event as the ringer. And get to experiment. So I got to experience that firsthand.
Mm-hmm. For our viewers, what Steve is alluding to is the fact that part of the rules for the event was that all players were required to cycle through command traits, items, and spells every game. So you couldn't just you didn't have a set thing, but you could rotate through stuff. You could also change your allegiance. Yeah. So for folks that qualified for maybe two different, if you're a Tzeentch player, you qualify for Disciples of Tzeentch maybe, or just a Tzeentch Allegiance, or you qualify for just generic chaos. You can choose which one goes to. Or there are some of us that have like 11 allegiance options to choose from.
Tom, did you happen to switch to generic order at all?
I was generic order for almost all of my games. I did almost no KO. And part of that is once I got there, I just was enjoying playing a bunch of bodies. That sounds really weird, but I was curious how basically I was curious how I knew how my main list would function, just drop and shoot people off. I was curious to see how my sideboard functioned, and I just ended up sticking with a lot of my sideboard for a lot of the tournament.
Yeah, the event for me, one of the takeaways. I'm sorry, Vince, you may have wanted to contribute there. No,
nope, I'm good, man. I'm good.
One of the well, you didn't have a sideboard, so you wouldn't know.
I did not. Sideboard list. Ooh, one list. And that's, by the way, just real quick. Also, since you said that, I'll say this. That wasn't because I didn't want to participate in this. I actually rather liked. I loved everything about it. I still cycled all my stuff as normal, but I didn't have a sideboard because I wanted to play my Iron Jaws, and I only had like 2,000 points of Iron Jaws, and so that's
painted.
Yeah, painted. And like that stuff takes a while, and I wasn't willing to compromise. So there we go.
You could have put something on. You probably had something on Square Bases you could have brought, Vince. Not like the first time. You wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have won your award though. That's for sure. Anyway, so one of the things that stood out for me as a player, and this is what's really this is what's truly unique about getting to play in my own event. I had my Acon list kind of locked in before the event, and now it's like, oh, well, maybe not so much. And there was that forced experimentation.
Yep.
That got me in a tournament environment. So it's in a competitive environment. And our tournament, it's narrative, but it's also, it's also, I would say it's also competitive. We have players who bring some tough lists. It's not just, hey, let's roll dice and just have some fun. You're going to compete against some top-notch army builds. You're gonna, and the other component of our event is that the tables play. So, and I experienced that firsthand. So, so I'll explain that in part of this discussion. Anywho, So one of the things that
No, could you mind if I say something about that real quick? I just want to
please interrupt. Let's converse. There's no
sure. Straight up filth is what some people bring to your tournament, my friend.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
They do.
Just face punching filth.
Yeah.
And, no, but here's the thing about it. I mean, like that might scare some people.
Yeah,
I think
don't
it does.
take it as a bad thing, Steve.
It shouldn't.
No, I don't. I don't take it as a bad thing. I wouldn't want people to stay away because of it.
No, and here's what I'm going to say, because here's the flip side of it. It's actually something unique, a sort of lightning in a bottle you've captured. I was talking about this with Tom off air, like as we were driving.
Yep.
At some point. By having a tournament.
You've done the impossible.
Yeah, by having a tournament focused on the hobby, right? Like that, because that's what it is. You have, realistically, you've got 5 hobby awards at the end of your tournament, and 1 focused on sort of the battle, the generalship. Okay.
Yep.
Nobody plays less hard because of that. Like, in fact, the game gets upped across the board.
Yeah.
The lists are hard. The hobby is off the charts because there's so many different ways to attack. One of the things that happens if there's just like sort of a best paint award, right, is that you kind of go, well, I'm not going to win that or something, right? Like I'm not the best painter, so I'm just not going to try. Right. But you have different ways that people can get in there and attack, because you had like a best conversion. You've got a fan favorite. You've got an appearance from the judges. You've got the hobby hammerist, right? All these sorts of things. And so people play to different areas.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
And so across the board, the hobby level increases because there's so many different ways to attack it. Now, at the same time, that one generalship trophy, that thing becomes coveted.
It is.
So the really good players, if you take that thing home, that's something.
Yeah.
Right? Now, a level deeper. I really I know this sounds like I'm blowing smoke up Steve's behind. I'm really not. I believe all of this. I said this all off the air. I mean it.
Yep.
The filthy lists are less scary in your tournament
for sure,
because the tables and the scenarios self-regulate.
Yeah,
they do. They certainly do. They certainly do have that effect, and that's what I had. That was what I was originally going for. So thank you. To hear that, that makes me feel good. A person always likes to have smoke blown up their rears.
I'm sure.
Thanks. No, but it just to comment to further expand on what you were saying. Sean Troy, he has been our now 4-time winner of Holy Wars. He is undefeated. And this year he was 4 points off max. Now, the interesting thing about Sean, and you mentioned earlier, Vince, about like the level of hobby at our event and how it's set up. Well, Sean, his first year when he won the award, as he's walking up, he's like, paint didn't kill me. Like, he thought his paint score, because at the time he wasn't really a hobbyist. Sean was a 3-color minimum guy,
right? And
no more, nothing else after that. And his hobby, from coming to our events, and I'm not saying, I think Sean would be the first to tell you that the combination of coming to our events, the Holy events, and then his, Stephen Thompson, who's part of it, his co-host on T3 podcast and one of his dearest friends, it pushes him to try and do better. So that ultimately was really what my goal was for our event. And that's why it's, we give out so many hobby awards and so Sean is like the perfect example. And even when you look at what other players who were 3-color minimum kind of guys who are now bringing and pushing the envelope a little bit more with their armies. And it's encouraging to see.
Yep. I mean, Relian won a hobby award.
Yes, true. He did.
I mean, and yeah, that's just it. Like, it's funny because by not focusing on that thing, that we're like, most people,
because Vince is coming to the event.
Right, exactly. So most people have tried to correct the whack list problem, right? by like tamping down or putting on heavy comps or all this kind of stuff. Yeah. No, you didn't. None of that's what happened here, right? You wrote scenarios that have dynamic objectives. You created tables that have a huge impact on the game that players have to be smart. Like that's what it is. Like you can't win on your list. You can't. Those tables don't let you win on list.
You're required to win on play.
Right.
Yeah, you do. You
and totally do. Sean, Jake, other Sean, and Brad are like, people who have classically all been at the top when they show up are really good players at the table. Right. Like they see the situation, they read it, and they react. And that they're not just like they bring good lists. Don't get me wrong, filthy lists.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But they're also great players. And so they learn to play the tables.
Yep. And that's what happened to, I think Jake, at one point, Jake and Sean were, I think they were neck and neck. They wound up facing off against each other. And Sean played the table in the scenario. Probably, I would say, he definitely, Jake would admit this too, Sean played the table better than he did. And it cost Jake the game. And granted, the table, and I talked to Jake after the game. Jake wasn't salty at all. It was kind of one of those things where Jake had to concede early on in the game. I'm not sure if it was turn 2 or not, but I believe it was. Because there just wasn't anything he could do. He was on the layer of the Astromancer table. And Sean just played it perfectly for the table with the Holy Wars terrain objective being what it was. And now, when I was talking to Jake, we were talking about the outcome because he's a repeat attendee and he's never won on that table. He's been on that table multiple times, and the Holy War terrain objective is what gets him. It causes damage. It's a pretty potent. It's like D6, I believe, or is it D6 or D9? I think it's D6 plus 2 or 3. I'd have to look up the rules for it. But it can cause some real pain if you get that spell off, right? It's like it's a high level spell to cast, but if it goes off, it can really do some damage. And if you're in the cloud car, the clown car, watch out. And so and that's the essence. That's what I think you're what we're talking about here is that when you can have these two very competitive players, and one guy plays the table perfectly, the other guy doesn't see it, and then boom,
Yeah, so it's one of the reasons I love the event is because it does, and on top of that, everybody who is there is an amazingly good person. Like the community there, the people there couldn't be more friendly, couldn't be more welcoming. I know I talked to some of the people who this was their first year there, and they all felt incredibly welcome, right away. And that's exactly it. That's the environment that's
what we want
there. Yeah.
Right.
How old friends quickly welcome new friends, basically, right? That's what it becomes.
Yeah, sure.
So, so let's talk about a little about you did manage to play some games. So I don't know if you want to go blow by blow, but why don't you give us a couple overview of some of your games?
Yeah, I'll give you the highlights. For game 1, I played against Butcher, and I played against him on the Ogre table.
Yep.
And that table. That table kicked my ass. I mean, it kicked my ass.
Funny story. It kicked my ass too.
Yeah, right.
I'm a big fan of that table.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Thanks, Vince.
Yeah, especially for for Iron Jaws on that table is really good.
Yeah, it is.
It's just potently good. So what happens is let me look up the rules so I can get it just right.
Oh, I can tell you if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom. You got that eidetic memory of yours.
So there's a large stone at the center of the table. And the stone starting at the first turn units within 3 inches, of the stone gain +1 to attack. Every round after that 3-inch bubble expands 3 more inches. You just need one model within range of the stone for the entire unit to get the buff, as it's currently written. There are 4 bonfires around the edge, and that any models within 6 inches of the bonfire burn for a whole bunch of damage. And then there are also 4 Grail tokens around the edge. Those 4 things lined up with the stone in between each of the stone and the bonfires. And so it just becomes a very interesting dynamic where you're forced into the center to hold these things. And by the way, those wounds that you're trying to score around the stone that grants extra attacks all have to be melee attacks. So if you have a list that's not melee oriented, if you have a list that's not a melee hitter with multiple attack profiles on single, unit, single models, all of that becomes very significant deciding factors in the table. I brought, I know it because I played it with Vince. He brought Iron Jaws, I brought KO. And what ended up happening was I just can't do melee wounds. I have one, maybe two units that had that capability, where his entire army does that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we stopped counting when I reached about 60 something and you were at 2.
Yep.
It just, and again, here's the thing though. It's that's and again, KO against IJ is, I think often leans in the void. I would put my money on KO 60-40, 70-30. But on this table, I would flip that. Right. Yeah. Especially with the objectives in the scenario. Tom was on the back foot, no doubt. Right. Especially since I know Tom's list backwards and forwards. And he's talked to me about how he plays it 100 times. So that also gave me a bit of it.
This isn't about us, Vince. Go ahead.
I understand.
Yeah, that's okay. So I was running my Sylvaneth, my Gnarl route for game 1, and
which I've got to imagine you had a pretty good. You probably wasn't too bad, right? You can set up your forest around that rock and kind of.
Well, yeah, yes. Well, I only was able to get down 2 footprints, not the full 3. Right. But as I chose, ultimately, what I tend to do at events, and this is something that I need to not do as a Sylvaneth player. I tend to, I walk up to the table, we look at the table. And I say, okay, I'm going to drop down my Wildwoods, and if I'm on the left side of the table, fine, I'll just stay there, right? And I won't move. If I win the dice roll off to choose my table side, I typically will be all right, I'll just stay here because it's too much of a hassle for me to move all my stuff to the other side, make my opponent move all their stuff to the other side. But on this table, I really should have done that because what happened was I chose the side with the scree slope. And the hill as opposed to the ogre hut. Now, what would have happened there had I chose the ogre hut? It would have given me an additional option for battle shock. So if I'm within 6 inches of the ogre hut, was it 6 inches or is it closer? I think it's a little closer than 6. It is closer. No, it's 6. It is 6. No, it's 6. Yeah. So if you're within, you get to re-roll any dice rolls of a 6 when you take your battle shock tests. And that would have given me some more tactical flexibility in a retreat move as Nurgle was coming across the board. Because Butch was running. It's not the first time I played Butch, but he was running a bunch of Blight Kings in his.
He was running Plague Cyst. Butcher was running. Did he run the 30 Plague Bearer unit against you, or did you run the Chariot?
Oh, yeah. No, okay. He had them going against me, and so what happens turn 1? And I'm not going to go blow by blow, but I saw what he was putting down in front of me, and I thought to myself, I don't really get to play against this at home here at the HQ. Nobody runs Nurgle. And I'm always in my basement, so I don't get out much. All I'm doing is painting and modeling. So I'm all right, well, there's a chance I'll be feisty. I've heard the horror stories of Blight Kings. So I thought, all right, my ruse card was I drew because I had less wounds than him. I was able to draw a ruse card, and my ruse card allowed me to redeploy 3 units after everything.
Yeah, I got that one too. I love that one.
Yeah, it's great. So I just decided, because what I did when I deployed was I cornered up. So I cornered up so that I was over on the side with the hill and the rock crags, and I had the bonfires. So I had the protection of the bonfires where if he comes in close, he's going to mortal wound me. I wasn't 100% sure how the Nurgle trees would impact the game. And so I didn't take those into account. But what I did was when I redeployed, I shifted my hunters and my hunters with scythes. And then my witch, I shifted her so that I could drop some Wildwoods on the other side of the scree slope and maybe start teleporting around his to try to outflank him.
Yep.
And then what I did with the hunters was I just kind of said, all right, look, the table objective is to cause wounds, right up around the challenge stone. So I just moved them right up, and I said, I was basically come and get me with your Blight Kings. Let's see what happens. And that was a big mistake. He just wiped them, and I was just like, whoa. I mean, when they're buffed, holy crow.
Well, so for those that don't know, Blight Cyst runs a battalion that the Blight Kings inherently have -1 rend by default.
Brutal.
The battalion also lets them ignore cover.
Right.
So it swings at two armor points functionally in their favor. And so against something that's like dependent upon saves and re-rolling saves like Kurnoth, they are just going to go stompy.
Right. And then he was able to get off a few buffs with I think he was running Papa in there. No,
yeah, probably running Blades of Putrefaction as well.
Yeah, so there was at one point where he did over 40 because of the buff from the Challenge Stone and the combination of the combos he had. He actually did 40 wounds at one point. Because he gets the 6 and that explodes for more wounds, and it was a real lesson in how not to play, which was great. And I find
it gave you Nurgle experience for Adepticon.
Oh, it was huge. Like the tactical play there, what I really should have done was I should have stayed in the corner, just drop those wildwoods and hold them up, and then go hunting, go sniping, so he couldn't buff them anymore with some of his guys, and just kind of.
You should have denied him wounds around the Challenge Stone.
Definitely.
Teleported in. And
he stayed away from my 30 block. Like, he gave me the Grail token with my 30 block of Dryads. They didn't have to do anything. They just sat there. I kept them outside the bubble of the bonfires so that they weren't taking damage, and they were just sitting in the wildwood. So I had that objective. I should have just said, come and get me. And then, played it that way, whittle him down a little bit before I engaged. So, because he did stay out of the wildwoods. He was afraid of them, because if the spells go off, and you get the tree man's spell, Awakening the Wildwood, is a good spell. It's doing mortal damage to everything that's within 1 inch, and if you get somebody to engage you inside the forest, it's you're right there. So I misplayed it. But it was a really good game, and I have permanent anger face, like I have a scowl. See. And I'm standing there, Mike's like thinking I'm all pissed off, and I'm like, no, dude, this is just me, man. It's the way, it's my genetics, I just look like I'm always angry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Butcher had that face for our entire game.
Right. So I have permanent curmudgeon face, and he knows this, but I think legitimately he felt bad when he was just rolling. I mean, they were hitting. He kept apologizing. I actually felt like I was playing Vargas, because Vargas has a tendency to do that. He constantly, I'm sorry. And so it was a good experience. So I was like, oh boy, I know what to do. And I think, Tom, you and I talked afterwards. I'm like, how would you counter this? And we talked about it, and you confirmed for me that what I learned was right, that I should have dropped the woods and held them up and played a little bit more of a savvy game, forth between. And that. So, but it was a good game. But it was really, it was a real good experience of seeing what my terrain what the tables can do.
How it swings fights.
Oh, sure, yeah, and that I got my ass kicked because of my table, in addition to Mike's stellar play. But that doesn't mean I'm going to change it. I mean, it functioned in the exact manner that it's supposed to in that given circumstance. I had options, I should have moved around. I should have thought about it a little bit more. I should have used the rock crags and the hills to my advantage a little bit more. I didn't, looking back on it, I could have really jacked him up with movement, and I didn't do it. I could have actually positioned that free wildwood to be closer to the ogre hut. So kind of have it off center, and then actually be on the other side of the board, drop my free one, and then I'm teleporting between both sides. And that really would have messed with his head. So I found that I learned that lesson, and I'll tell that in my the last game of the weekend. It kind of came that lesson was learned, and then I took that and used it to my advantage in the last game. So that was game one, and it was great. It was, like I said, a great game. It was relaxed. I was kind of hoping I wasn't going to have to play, but what was interesting was that there weren't a lot of questions. The questions that I was getting during game one were questions. Some players were coming up and asking me not questions about claiming objectives or Grail token placements. So I think the update, what we did with the map this year in the players pack. Some players were like, hey, there's no mark on here to say if it's 12 inches or 6 inches. And it was like, really, guys? I mean, they're not in the book either. You can kind of figure it out just by looking at it. It doesn't. But so I think next year I'll put in 12 inches up, 6 inches from here. That
sure.
It's a little bit more clear. So that was good. The biggest question that I kept getting was, players this year were asking after round 1, were asking about intent, right? So they would come up to me and they're like, "Did you intend it to be this way?" And I'm like, "Well, how's it written?" And they would read it back to me. I'd be like, "Well, that's it." And so once it dawned on them that it was like, okay, there is no other intent. It is at rules as written. Then it was kind of like, oh wow, and the biggest table that came up with was the cane table. And I think Vince, you played on the cane table.
I played on the cane table round 1, yeah.
Yeah, and it was, that's just the way it is, right? I mean, it was just yes.
Hey, I love the cane table as much as I love the ogre table.
Right.
So.
And that was
run somebody on the cane table, Vince, for game 1
for Holy Wars next year, yeah, or Holy Havoc.
Holy Havoc. Well, Havoc, you won't be able to. You won't be able to. Sorry, because it's going to be all random. It's going to be.
Oh, we're going to claim that table.
Yeah, right. So you can choose. You might be able to choose if you get the opportunity.
Every match, we are going to choose the cane table.
You might be able to do that,
folks.
Yeah, you might be able to, depending on how things finish out.
Oh,
we'll be rocking the full daughters. I'm not going to go as far as Tom, but I will say, I would certainly hope to play on that table at least once. I would feel it a necessity over the course of the tournament to have at least one time where we do venerate our god by,
Oh no. Every opportunity that we can choose that table, we will on every
that avatar comes off, so maybe you can take it off the top and place it.
Activate him. Yeah, that's why I asked, can I animate him? Because I'll get the prayer to animate a statue of Cain.
Let it attack the nearest target.
We'll make a little base so that the pin goes into the base on the table so he can come down from the top of his temple.
Yeah, there we go.
Cool. Anyway, so that was game 1.
Oh, here it is. If he animates, he should attack whoever's in the temple. So whoever's occupying. So normally you can't actually engage the hero in the temple without being at the base of the stairs. But if that statue gets animated, it should free attack whoever as if like in every combat phase.
Yeah, maybe the terrain objective will be that. You have to activate him, and then he has to kill whoever does the most wounds by it.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, you could use just a variation of the activation that's like there already on the prayer card, but let anybody venerate him.
Yeah, for sure. And then you could still have the bubbling of the wounds, but instead of it being the most wounds caused, it's whoever causes the most wounds with the avatar. That'd be kind of cool.
There you go.
All right, back on to stay on target, right, guys?
Sorry.
Doing a very good job at the moment. So let's see. So then game 2 for me wound up on death and another damn Nurgle army. And this game is the game that made me. This is the game. I hate Nurgle. Okay. I used to flirt with a love of Nurgle. I thought Nurgle, if I ever did something, that would be my army, and that's how I would want to do it. And now I just hate all things Nurgle. I played Tom McClure, and I love Tom. Tom's one of my favorite all-time dudes in this hobby, and he and I have never got to face off one-on-one in a game. And it was a great game. Great game.
With 90 Plague Bearers?
Yes. He hard fought. It was swingy back and forth. It was good. In this game, the highlight of this game is that I took Alariel out, and she made her debut. Pardon?
Did she roll some face?
No, she wet the bed. It was pathetic. I was very disappointed. I'm like, at one point I was dropping F-bombs that the whole hall probably heard. And I was like, effing Nurgle, I hate Nurgle. And, Tom would roll his ward. What do they call it? They're
disgustingly resilient.
Yeah, thank you. Disgustingly resilient on a 6. Boom, 6. And I just yell, F you, Nurgle. And for the viewers that don't know, Belle's my wife, right? And you guys have seen me in the hall, so I get animated, right? And I have fun with it. But Belle thought I was genuinely angry with Tom. So she was like all paranoid because like I'm dropping these, I'm getting a little profane and losing my mind. And she didn't realize it was all good. And my permanent curmudgeon face was really on during this game. In fact, there are some photos out there that show me with with how angry I was at Nurgle in that moment. But it was all in good fun. All in good fun. Anyway,
I will say, Steve, I approached you. I don't know if you remember this during that game, and you cussed me out.
I did.
And you said you can be assured that Nurgle will never be allowed to come into the tournament.
Right. I was going to ban Nurgle from the tournament. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I did say that. Yeah. My passions got the better of me in that moment. Yeah, I did say that. I'm ban Nurgle from this tournament. Anyway, you know what was really funny? I don't know if you guys remember this. Oh, you probably don't. No, I don't know if I haven't told this story on air. It was because it just happened this year. So I played against Tom's Nurgle at Wapaka in the team tournament.
Okay.
And he had these point hammer dice, these Wapaka dice with the big skull on there. And he kept rolling it, and he used it against me at Holy Havoc. And so we played against Holy Havoc, and then he used it on me again at Wapaka, and I was just losing my mind over those dice. So here we are, we rock up to Holy Wars, right? And we're playing in game 2. So I thought for sure Tom was going to break out his Wisco Wapaka dice to roll his 6s on me. And what does he roll his 6s with? Holy Wars
dice, right?
Yeah, Holy Wars dice. Yep, his collection of Holy Wars dice. They bit me in the ass. Anyway, so let me give you the highlight of Valerial's debut. So she flies up, right, and she gets it behind his lines, and she's just gonna wreak havoc. So I'm gonna send her in, and the Beetle's gonna just decimate some plague bearers, right, knock them back so I can get that objective. And that's what's going to happen. And she flies up.
5 damage a hit on those tusks. You got to do something.
You got to do something, right?
Right.
And what does Valerial do? What do I do when I roll up? I get 1 hit through. 1 hit through, right? Uh-huh. And I'm going to roll up for damage. All right, it's going to be 5 damage. And do I damage? Do I do anything? No. Uh-huh. So Valerial, big old nothing. And so it was just like, and she didn't do anything the whole game. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, you're going back in the box, putting her in the corner. Yes, I'm putting Alariel in the corner. And but it was a great game between Tom and I. That table was now in that table we talk about choosing, Vince. Choosing based on the terrain, right, and choosing the best option on that table. When we were looking at it, Tom decided not to take the side with the ghost fence. Now
for the healing graveyard,
the haunted fence. Yeah, he went for the healing graveyard side.
Yep.
And what he wasn't expecting was the fact that with the haunted fence.
Oh yeah.
I'm immune to battle shock, and
right.
Fighting against these units are -1 bravery. So what that did was that did help in him when he had to take his battle shock test, he was -1. And then I basically kept everybody right around that. So I had like a line there claiming that middle grail token objective and the one that was on the left-hand side of the board during the whole game. And I was just I was like his plague bearers, right? I wasn't going to move. I was just there. And all my units. So I had my hunters, my revs, and my dryads were all immune to battle shock. And it was great. It was really, it was really awesome play. I felt really good about that. And in that game, I really do think a couple dice rolls go a different way with Alariel. Who knows what would happen in that game. So, and the thing with Nurgle that I learned too is just stay away from the big boys. Just focus your attention because, they're healing. It's kind of a waste. You look for the smaller guys to go after, I think. And I think he was running he was running 2 of them. He wasn't running 3 in that game, but
he had 2 Guos on his list.
Yeah. So it was good. It was so I had Nurgle back to back. Ugh, brutal way to start the day. And then in game 3, I got to play Scott Reed from California. Yep. Scott flew out. He's now Scott, if you're watching or if you watch this later, he's a legend in Holy Wars attendees because he brought an amazing charity raffle gift. Tom, I think you got it right. Look at Tom getting up to get it. Yeah. So it was amazing. Scott brought his.
It's still taped, baby.
Still taped. It was awesome. Very generous.
That's not a positive thing, Tom. That means you haven't touched it.
No gift wrapped.
Yeah, you're gonna. That's still gonna be taped in 2020. But continue.
Anywho, so he got when I rocked up with we were playing on the high elf table, and this was an interesting game because Scott was bringing. I should have wrote this down, and I apologize for not writing this stuff down. Tom, do you know what he was playing? Because you have that kind of brain.
No, I actually never saw his army.
Okay, so he was running Storm. He was running a Stormcast battalion that lets you buff the heck out of everybody that's in line with somebody else. I don't remember, but it was a good game. It was a well fought game. In that one, the table terrain objective is getting into the Shrine of the Phoenix and then casting Phoenix's Gaze, and then causing holy wounds. So I was able to, on that board, I was able to drop all 3 footprints dead center. I chose the side with the anvil of fire, and
that's the right side.
Yeah.
By the way, there are, like, we can talk later, Steve. There are right sides on your board.
There's right. It's army dependent.
That's true. That's true. It is army dependent.
It is army dependent. I mean, he won the roll off, and when he was looking at it, I said, Scott, are you sure you want that side? And because I'm the ringer, I'm not trying to roll face. I want to give him a good competitive game. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. He's like, I don't like doing that. I said, well, look at the rules for the Anvil of Fire. And he looked at it, and then he was just kind of like, oh, that's okay. And I'm like, all right, man, because I got a Tree Lord here, I got a Witch, and having that large of an arcane item sitting right there, because it's a huge footprint, right? So
no, the real advantage is that you can, if you get in the Phoenix Temple, you can, if you're on that side, it protects your Grail token.
Right.
Because the elf like stuff isn't near your Grail token.
Right. You mean the beacon you're talking about?
Yeah, the beacon is not near your elves.
Yeah, sure, for sure. I mean, that does it too, but it was kind of like he had a couple units he was putting down. He put down up in the cloud. So like his Grail token, my Grail token. My Revenants were just sitting around mine. They were just sitting there to claim, and then eventually they teleport on the other side and grab his. And then we were going back and forth on it. And then what was awesome was that he drew the ruse card that allows you to set a terrain piece on fire. And so he waited until I used the big footprint, and it was awesome. It was just so cool because here my own Wildwoods are burning my Corn Elf Hunters and causing mortal wounds on my Corn Elf Hunters because they're in when he sets them on fire. They're
causing holy wounds.
Yeah, holy wounds. So it was great. It was really, really awesome. It was a really great play. And then my Hunters were coming up right through that Wildwood, getting ready to go down on his line and just decimate. And so I wasn't going to be able to get out of the Wildwood. If I charged through the Wildwood, I'd still be in it because of where he put.
And that's a D6 plus 2 holy wounds.
Yeah, so I believe I lost at least one, and some more wounds came over onto another. I had to teleport out of there to try to wrap around and go the other way. And so it was a great play by him. That was awesome. And I kept saying, I was like, you're going to use your ruse card. You're going to use your ruse card. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it. And then go in there, and I teleported them into that Wildwood too. So, and I should have looked at his face when I did that, because I bet you his eyes got really wide. He was probably like, oh yeah, I got you now. So it was a really good game. And it turned out to be a draw. It was a well fought battle. It was going back and forth. It was a great way to end day one for me. And it was great to roll dice with Scott. He made this trip. He came all the way out, and
from San Francisco,
San Diego,
or San Diego. That's what it was.
San Diego, and it was great. I mean, he's a really good guy. He helped us break down the tables and pack up the van, and he was really, really, really nice to chat up with him, and his generosity of spirit was just really amazing. So he's definitely the kind of guy that we want at a holy event, and it was really great to meet him. And Scott, I hope you can make the time to come back next year. It'd be awesome to see you again. And then then we had Saturday night, and Saturday night was it was interesting. Saturday night, I got to roll some dice in a game that I quit playing a long time ago, and that was 40K.
Mm-hmm.
Vince, we didn't talk about our game Friday. Maybe we can go back and talk about that later. Well, you talked about it on your.
Yeah, we did our battle.
Yeah, we covered how Tom did nothing due to his ridiculous bidding and then nervousness and like his sort of like 80s over the top comedy stylings as he like Jerry Lewis over here trying to put 30 Longbeards on the table.
Alex wouldn't let him. They're not deployed because he's laying them down, and Alex wouldn't let you have it. I thought that was brilliant that Alex wouldn't let you have it, Tom.
You gotta. What are you gonna do when you're going against two TOs? You gotta respect what they say.
Right? Yeah. Like, what am I gonna do? Contest that?
Yeah. Well, hey, man. For the record, I was okay with it. I didn't really say anything, right? So, I was just like,
I'm throw any game,
Alex, and I'm like,
throw any game. Let it be that one.
I'm like, Alex, are those deployed? He's like, no. And I'm like, okay. And I guess you have to take them off, Tom.
Yeah, I had a great punch up with Alex where you occasionally shot me. Yes. And allegedly I had some dwarf allies in that game. I mean, I didn't see them, but they were there somewhere. I heard.
Regarding your objective points, Dick.
Who even won that game? Did you guys win that game?
You guys did.
We did. That shows you I don't even know.
Yeah, you guys won that game.
Right. So anyway, going back to Sunday. So Sunday morning, my game 4, I didn't actually play. So the player wanted to just take a break. I think he maybe had a rough Saturday night. There was some shenanigans going on. So
and that was Will, right?
Yes, and he just came downstairs and he's like, "Hey, is it okay we don't play?" I said, "Yeah, man, that's totally fine. It's no big deal. It's, I'm ready to go if you want to play." What'd you say?
I said you have to take a loss, but sure.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so then it rocked up to game 5, and game 5 I got to play against Andrew Simons, who I've never played against, and he was rocking his Blades of Corn, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. I played him game 1.
Yeah, so he was running in this one. Vince, he ran the Gorgon, the Bloodthirster with the crown, the brass crown. Mm-hmm. And then he had just a slew of bodies right all over the place. He had some Wrathmongers, and so we played. We played on one of my son Reed, and one of his favorite tables and mine, the Zinch table, the upside down.
I love the Zinch table, man.
Yeah, dude. You know, for all those players out there that have given me stick about that table, I think you're wrong. It's a fun table to play.
I was hoping I would get that table.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I ended up getting basically all the other tables you did. Like I did Phoenix Temple, I did Vlad, I did. What was your first game?
You were on the Maw.
Yeah, like your entire first day, I did 3. I never got upside down.
Yeah, I mean, here's how much I love the Zinch table. When I did a pickup game on Saturday night with David Griffin, I was like, let's play on the Zinch table. This table's fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. I mean, with the pink pillars healing you, and then like the eyes munching on you at the same time, you're healing. You're putting guys back. You're taking guys off. So and then the regular pillars are causing damage, causing holy wounds. If you finish your movement phase, so I'm not sure I don't know. And I thought this scenario, I did change it this year, so maybe that's part of it. Like the Grail tokens now, you used to have to deliver the Grail tokens to the eye, but this year they kind of drop in, kind of like that one scenario from the GHB, the Star. What is it called? Star Strike.
Yep.
So they drop in, and so for the deployment in this game, I learned from my first game. And so, there's that I put the free wildwood between the eye and then the black pit, right? So basically what was going to happen is if he moves up his right flank, he's going to be going under the black pit and he's going to be suffering holy wounds, right? So, and, so he wasn't interested in any of that.
Right.
So that kind of forced him to move left. And this is a deployment zone too, where you're in the opposite, your kitty corner. So your force is split. Okay. So yeah, exactly. And so so what I did was I put Alariel and she, in this particular battle, she was not my general. Okay. My general was my witch, but what I didn't know was that his secret mission was to kill my highest pointed model. Okay. And mine was to kill his general. So it was his Bloodthirster. And so I put Alariel in the far corner, on the other, so it was on the other side of the board, near on the opposite side of the board where the black pit was. So it was on that other far corner.
Mhm.
Had plenty of room to verdant blessing up some wildwoods if need be. So she was in a good position to do that. And then and then I put the hunter. All my hunters were with her because I figured drop a wildwood there, and I can bounce between, just bounce back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Sure.
And so I'm not going to go into a blow by blow, but eventually, so what happens is I think he won because that particular I didn't have a Wargrove, so I wasn't a 1-drop, and so I had to, but I still managed to get first turn because he had more units than I. And so I don't recall what the ruse was. What was my ruse? I can't remember what it was. It might have been to bring back a unit that died, but I'm not. I don't know if that was it or not. So anyway, so Ilariel drops a wildwood right in front of her. So she's got a wildwood between 2 pillars of Tzeentch and the Eye of Tzeentch. Actually, 3 pillars of Tzeentch. She was able to get all 3.
Mm-hmm.
And this was when I finally realized I was looking at what he had across from her. And so across the board from her, he had his Bloodthirster, his Gorgon, and then he had Wrathmongers, and he had a bunch of what are the cheap dudes for Blades of Corn?
Like the Blood Reavers.
Thank you, Blood Reavers. And when I positioned the Wildwoods, I positioned them in a way that the opening between the trees would force him to have to move around towards the Eye of Tzeentch.
Right. Sure.
So what would happen is he'd have to take mortal wounds if he goes by there, right? Because it's the eye delivers D3 holy wounds, right? And holy wounds can be saved. So I figured, if he's going to go in there, he's going to take some hits, right? So Andrew did exactly what I anticipated him to do. He went the other way. And what I did was when I positioned the Wildwoods, I positioned them in a manner that the Gorgon wasn't going to be able to get through. The only thing that could get through there was going to be the Bloodthirster flying over. So he moved all the way up without looking at the trees and looking at the footprints of the trees on the Sylvaneth Wildwood. And he got his Gorgon up there, and he's like, okay, I'm going to charge the Gorgon in. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. And we took the trees off, and he's like, oh. And he just was like, he was gutted because he had got the Bloodthirster in, and he knew that if he was going to kill her, he was going to have to get both of those in to get those points, right?
Vince knows all about that.
She's going to heal up, right? Because she's going to heal. So anyway, the battle ensues, and so we're going to fight, right? And he charges me, and so it's my turn to attack back, and I'm like, all right, I got the War Drop. He's got 5 attacks with his antlers. I'm hitting you on 4s, winning you on 3s. All 5 of them go through. I'm like, uh-oh. And I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go, right? My palms are sweating. I'm like, I got to get these 3-ups. Got to get these 3-ups. Boom, get all the 3-ups, right? He's just like, wait, what? And he's just like, oh my gosh, he couldn't believe it. Or no, I'm sorry, I just ruined the story. That was against his other unit. That was against his huge unit where that happens. I'm sorry. Go back. Anyway, so the Bloodthirster. Oh God, I can't believe I blew the story. The Bloodthirster fight. What happens is it's a slugfest between Ilariel and the Bloodthirster, and I wanted to cast the spell Metamorphosis and turn his Bloodthirster into a Wildwood. That was my goal before the game. I wanted to turn that damn thing into a Wildwood, and he was able to unbind it. I rolled a 9, but because of the brass crown, and he got the plus whatever it was, he was able to unbind the spell. So it was kind of a buzzkill. And then she winds up killing him in combat. But the beauty of the story, if Steven could tell us that damn story, was that he got into the Gorglaive guys. Who are those guys? What are those guys with the Gorglaives that kill you when they die, or they can attack you when they die?
Blood Warriors.
Blood Warriors.
Those are the Blood Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
So he got into the Ilariel got in there and caused 25 damage. And Andrew's face when I told him, he's like, how much damage? I go, 25. He just looks at me like, what? Like 25? I'm like, yeah, because he didn't save any. It just went right through. And he was just like shocked as hell when I handed him the card and he's reading it. It's his face. He's like all intense, right? And then he's just kind of like, oh my gosh, it is 25. So he couldn't believe it. What a way to ruin a story. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so it was great. So it was a great ending. So Ilariel redeemed herself in the end. And so that's what got me thinking that maybe do I want to put her into one of my lists for Akon?
No, you don't.
No, I'm going to stick with what I got. So it was great, though. It was a good time. That was a good table. I enjoyed playing on it. I enjoyed the rules for the table, the scenario. Andrew got the win. He wound up being able to grab an object. He wound up getting the Grail tokens from me just because he had mass numbers with bodies, and the pink pillars were healing back some guys, so he was able to get the Grail tokens pretty easy. I needed to kill his. I needed to try to, in order to deny him the last Grail token, I needed to get priority so I could heal Lariel back up. Mm-hmm. And he got his Wrathmongers into her, and that was it.
At 5 damage doesn't look so good when she's hitting herself, does she?
No, well, I didn't attack with her. He was able to kill her. She was down to like no wounds left. So
sure.
He was able to.
They can do a little work on their own. I mean, they're pretty pathetic in melee, to be honest. But yeah,
it's the attacking yourself kind of thing if they get into the right unit.
Yeah, I told you, just as a quick aside, because I fought him too. On the Temple of Cain, I charged his Wrathmongers with 6 pigs, and each orc on top of my pigs is up to 7 attacks each, and the pig on the bottom had 8 attacks. So when I hit him, I did 75 attacks to him, and then had to repeat the entire 75 attack cycle on myself. So basically, both units just went.
Right, exactly. So it was good. The tournament overall, the feedback was great. Got a lot of positive feedback. There were some questions on some scenarios. One of the questions that came up was one of the key things I'd like to bring up was death. So on the death table, the Tower of Vlad, what it does is you have the ability to cause wounds by using the tower. And the range on the ability is 18 inches, but you're only scoring on units that you do damage to that are within 6 inches of it.
Okay. So wait a minute. Hold on. Stop.
Yeah.
So you had to do holy wounds in order to, like, the only way to score those points were holy wounds against units within 6?
Within 6, yeah.
Okay. We were playing it, the way it's worded is you just had to do wounds within 6, period. Any wounds.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're correct. It was within 6 wounds, right? But the ability, you can reach out and touch somebody within 18 inches.
Yeah.
So it gives you that opportunity to reach out and touch a unit if you don't have anybody that you can score wounds with, within that 6-inch bubble.
Yep.
And there were a couple players who didn't register with them. So that was kind of interesting.
When I played David Griffin, that wasn't an issue.
Yeah, I'd love to see the tower just be board wide, since you can't even control necessarily that you do the damage, right? Like it's a 50-50 shot, like 50% healing, 50% damage. I'd love to see the damage tick. It's only D3 holy wounds. I'd love to see that be just board wide, so that way if you get the tower and you get the tower and you get the damage, at least you can hit the target you need to.
Yeah,
and plus that would eliminate. Well, plus that would eliminate the confusion, right? Because then you wouldn't have a measurement on the tower rate.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
you can do this damage.
Yeah, that's a good point. The other thing too is that I think I'm gonna on that particular table as well. I have it marked as one of the tables because I don't want to have to relaminate every year. It's like it's always expensive to keep laminating maps over and over and over again.
Yep.
But this table here, one of the things I think needs to be changed too is the garrisoning rules for that. It was a little confusing. So what I think I might just do is open it up since it's kind of a ruin. It doesn't have a door. Just let people jump in there and you don't have to be in contact with the stairs. You just fly up, boom, you have it. And just kind of keep it wide open.
Yep.
And remove that whole mechanic of the garrisoning rule on that particular piece of terrain. I think it would make for a better experience. The other thing too that needs to be changed on that is deployment. Deployment on that table was battle line. It basically nerfed the zombie chapel altogether. I don't
know. It was really good for Alpha Strike when you give them the side with zombie chapel. They set up next to it, and then you charge your units into their units. around the zombie chapel.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Like it becomes a hot potato because you want them to take the chapel if you have an alpha striking unit so that you can go over and beat face around wherever they
of course. Right. And then the zombie chapel actually came it actually helped the Cornell Hunters, the bow guys, because it buffed their attacks. They get +1 melee. Right. And they're immune to battle shock. So Tom, when I played Tom on that table, Tom just avoided them. He was like, what do we have here? I'm like, so they're going, it just that +1 melee attack, because the hunter archers are horrible in melee, but you add an attack to that, it helps. And then making them immune to battle shock too, that helps too. So I mean, so there's some things that need to be tweaked. A couple players misplayed the Garand table. They misplayed the placement of one of the tokens. One of the Grail tokens, there were 3 on that board in a triangle formation. So you had one that was dead center, then you had 2 in each deployment zone on the center line. For some reason, a couple of players put the one that was on the center, dead center horizontally, they put it next to the Oak of the Ages, and it was very clear on the map in the pack that it would, at least to me, it was like, well, you would put it on the other side. It seemed so. I think that there needs to be a bit more clarity on that.
Adding the numbers and such will give you that.
Yeah. So
let's talk about the twist and ruse, since this is your first year. Yeah. So do you mind if I sort of talk about them for a second? I know Tom might have some different opinions.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't have any with me. I have a PDF of them since I've.
No, that's fine. So the twist and ruse cards, just so everybody understands, when you sat down, you shuffled both decks. You had 2 decks. They were very nice, like, playing card, basically stock. And you shuffled them up, and then you flipped a twist card, right? And that imposed some game state effect. So for example, there was like Lashing Rain, where all shooting attacks have a -1 to hit, and at the top 2, you roll, and on a 4 up, it ends. If you don't end it, you roll at the top of 3 and top of 4, and so on until you end the rain, right? Mm-hmm. So it's imposing like a game-wide effect. You're both aware of it. It's just hey, this is a thing happening now, right? Relatively simple. I felt like they were the right amount of complexity. That is to say, I never had a problem remembering that they were there, right? They were you kept them simple enough.
But we pulled, there were some original ones, and there were some that were pulled from the actual open war deck.
Right. And so and I couldn't tell the difference is what I'll say. So that tells me you nailed it. Like, I don't remember all the open war cards off the top of my head, and I couldn't tell the difference between them. So, one of them was like +1 to all casting, but if you rolled doubles, you took a mortal wound because it was like out of control magic or whatever, just stuff like that, right?
Well, like Nagash's Whisper was one that we added. I can't remember all the ones we'd added. I'd have to go back and take a look at my notes.
Yeah, they were cool. I liked them. One thing I will say is that in my games,
ever penalize you, Vince?
No, none of them ever caused a penalty to me in any way that was at all measurable. In fact, they were only upside. They were either neutral or upside, because I had 1 shooting attack in the army and I had 1 spellcaster. So that was great. I got Foot of Gorkov more in this tournament because I got that magic thing twice. And I had my little orky caster who gets +1 for his orc. So he was casting Foot of Gork on an 8. I stomped poor Andrea Celestant Prime into the ground, just on 1 roll, just wham, wham, sit down. But no, so they had no, it seemed to me that if you had a heavily ranged army, there were more cards in that deck that affected you than if you
only had to have 1 unit for it to become crippling, like a heavy investment in a single unit that was ranged.
I probably overstated. Maybe not. I don't know about that, man. I'm not sure what to say about that. Whatever the case, it seemed to more tilt towards if you had a ranged or heavily ranged army. I'll say it that way. There was more things in there that could potentially negatively affect you. Because there was the Lashing Rain, but there was also the Dead of Night.
Yeah.
Right.
A maximum range of 12 inches that could stay all game. or it only goes up by 6 inches every time you're on a 4+. Technically, the mobility one is a penalty to any ranged armies.
Right, that's what I was going to say, because it helps the melee people get across the board faster, and the shooting army didn't need it anyways, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And in my games, in 4 of my 5 games, we pulled 2 of the maximum 12-inch range cards, and we pulled 2 of the +2 movement cards.
Yeah.
And
but
so
have an effect on your clown card.
Yeah, so like that just immediately skews against me. Like I sit down to play, and I'm immediately like, yeah, yep,
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the twist. I mean, that's definitely. But to defend it, you get to know that prior to you even picking and deploying your army.
Well, there were occasions because it got forgotten where the twist ended up happening after we deployed.
Right.
Yeah. Well, see, when that occurs, what you should have done was said, okay, look, that's not really fair, because within the confines of the rules, it's supposed to be, we're supposed to both get to see it before we deploy. I would have deployed totally different units had this been the case. Can we pick another card? I mean, that to me is a gentlemanly and sportsmanly thing to do, as opposed to picking the card, because that's the whole point, right? I mean, it's the whole essence of the event was to say, bring your toys, and then at the tabletop, pick. Now, a lot of players didn't do that. There were players that said, okay, I'm going to come and I'm going to play. My first 2 games are going to be played. I'm going to play with this list, and I'm going to play with this list, and I'm going to play with this list. And so they kind of had it locked in. And in my opinion, that defeats the purpose and the joy of what this event was based on.
Yep.
The concept was, what we were trying to do is to
let people be reactive.
Yeah, be reactive to what your opponent is deploying and say, okay, yeah, no, this time I want to do this, and so the hope was that the twist deck would kind of incentivize people to look at it that way. As a TO, I should, maybe next year for Twist and Ruse, I'll make that announcement that, hey, if you forget to draw the twist deck, maybe you can do, if both players are not in agreement, you can redraw, you can draw another card off the top of the deck. Maybe, I don't know, but I mean, there needs to be probably a little bit more clarification on that. People don't read the pack either. That's part of the problem. Players can't, like we sent the pack out a week early, and our packs.
I read it.
Sure. It's just easy to forget it. You know what I mean? Because you're already thinking about the table.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's easy for me. Like, I'm not salty that I got kicked in the dick multiple times by the twist deck.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And that's part of what this is like. Some tables do that to some armies.
Right.
And that's the reality. Oh,
I will say your army was highly resistant in the ways you could deploy it to many of the tables where other people might not have had that. Like you had a lot of good options on a lot of those tables that other people did not.
Yeah, no, it's true. I will say this, by the way, the irony here is that I said that 2 times we drew the one and 2 times we drew the other.
Yeah.
For the question is what did I get for my 5th game? On one of the ones that I drew the minimum 10-inch range.
Yeah.
We drew the double card. So in the double card, you draw like you can't see it too. So I got the 10-inch range, and I got the +1 to magic against the Death Army. How awesome is that? And so that was my game against Sean. The other game that I didn't that didn't come out so well. But that +1 to magic and double dice one showed up then my 5th game.
Mm-hmm.
So over 3 games, over 5 games, I only ever saw 3 twists.
Yeah, which is funny too, because there's a dozen or more cards in that deck.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I saw the same 3 all 5 games.
Yeah, it's just hilariously bad luck. Although to be fair, the time I got foot off against you, Tom, I did roll an 11, so I didn't need that +1. I hard rolled the 11. I'm just saying.
Dice.
Yeah, it's a dice game. Gork stomped your general into the ground. So anyway, so all in all, I think it'd be interesting to have maybe I think you can mix up the effects and make an announcement. Hey, don't forget the first thing you do when you rock up to the table should be at the same time you're rolling to pick your sides or whatever, right? Before you roll to pick your sides, flip the card.
Yes.
Yep.
flip the card.
Yeah.
Make it part of the ritual, right? Of like, because people are used to like, you sit down your stuff, you roll the die, say, okay, you sit down your stuff, you flip the card.
Yeah.
Well, I can also make an announcement before each round. Don't forget to flip the card.
Sure.
I didn't do that, but part of that's because I was playing and I was a bit distracted.
No, it's fine. It was the first year with them. There's going to be hiccups. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it's
on
the whole, I really did like their effect. And to be, you know, to be
clear, Vince.
Be clear about it. Yeah. I only had the ruse card in my control one game.
Yep.
Like apparently 123 wounds was a lot of wounds. I didn't think it would be, but it must have been.
I noticed too that players would draw the ruse and then not remember to roll on the triumph table.
Oh, yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
One time I drew a ruse, I didn't roll on the triumph table.
Yeah, that was something else I noticed. There were a couple of questions about that that I answered for people on Friday night, and you know, so they knew that they would still get that. But yeah, the triumph table was forgotten. But it was, you know, I think it was great. The changes for the core rule, is that all on the twist and ruse?
I just want to say one thing. I think the ruse cards were darn near perfect. The one that obviously caused consternation was the returning unit to the game, right? Because there was no limitation on what that could do. Like Nagash could get blown off the table and then come back, right?
Right.
And maybe that's appropriate, maybe that's not. I don't know. The ruse cards to me were actually really good fun. I thought they were like, we could argue about the one that brings that unit back, like I said, but I felt like the rest, when they got used on me, I was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Neat trick.
Yeah.
You know, like they all felt pretty appropriate. They felt pretty surprising. They felt just about right.
Yeah.
Like they were pretty darn dead on. The like redeploy 3 units thing was cool. I'm trying to think of what the other ones that got used against me were, but I mean,
the light terrain on fire.
Yeah, the light terrain on fire. That one was sweet. I like that one a lot.
I just wish it did the holy wounds immediately. Anything in the terrain immediately takes the damage.
Yeah, it's a big number. It needed to be a smaller number if it did it immediately, I think, because you can like insta kill heroes.
I know.
Right. Like,
no, I could have lit your brutes on fire. It would have been amazing.
Yeah, you could have, sure. Like, if that was the case, fine. My concern, like, I'm not thinking about it from the point of view of our game. I'm thinking about it from the point of view of like someone like you getting that played against you, and both of your Ender Masters would just explode immediately.
Sure.
Right. There's a lot of 5 wound heroes who would just suddenly die against a D6.
They would literally evaporate.
Yeah, there's a 66% chance those models just die outright, even if they're at full health. Which seems a bit significant for us. That's a heck of a ruse.
The swing.
Like, whoops, killed your entire heroes. Zip. Right. And there's nothing you could do about it, right? There's no interaction with it. That's what scares me about that. If it was like you lit it and it was instantly a D3, I'd be like, okay, yeah, sure, right away. You know what I mean? Something like that. So anyway.
Sure.
Yeah, overall I thought they were dead on. Okay. So anyway, Steve, you were saying, back to you, sir.
Yeah, one of the things that you know, to review what I would like to change, or what I'm considering changing for next year, is the concept of the concept of changing everything when it comes to artifacts and command traits and such. Though I liked it and I thought it was great, it was a lot of bookkeeping for certain armies. You know, some armies it wasn't as much. You know, some players were completely drained after day one, because it's a lot of watching what they do. And you know, it was a lot of management for us from scorekeeping perspective. So John was required to, you know, to vet everybody's, to track scores, to track points. I mean, and make sure players were getting those narrative bonuses. So if we were to still do something along those lines, we probably would switch it up a little bit. Just to make our lives and the players' lives a little bit easier. But overall, very, very satisfied with the event. The hobby was just amazing. So Saturday night when we had to do all the painting, I think almost the entire field maxed out on paint scores before we got to Hobby Master.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty good. Let me double check that. Let's see.
Yeah, the answer there is, so like 22 was the most you could get on paint, right?
Correct. And it looks like
Every player had a 22.
everybody got it. Yeah, everybody did get it. That's what
I've got the result sheet up in front of me.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, we don't post Hobby Master scores. Maybe we will someday, but maybe that's what I was thinking in terms of what people scored in Hobby Master. But everybody else maxed out on paint, and I think that's definitely a credit to the community that everybody maxed out on paint. It shows
there were no three color minimum.
No, and then so when we got into voting, it was quite different. This year we decided to give out second and third place awards for everything. And that was interesting as well. It made for some unique challenges for us this year as judges. We had we as judges were tiebreakers for some things. And what we do at our Holy events is that you can only win one award. So if you were a multiple award winner, we approached you about the award that you wanted to be awarded. So if you finished first, even if you finished, let's say you finished second place in fan voting and you finished third place in conversion, you would default to the highest finish. Right. So those players defaulted. So if they would get, okay, so then they didn't get third place in conversion. So that goes to the next player as long as they didn't win anything in that other category. And so that was great. It was very rewarding to be able to award individuals for their hard work that maybe are not at the same level as yourselves. And to be able to give them some recognition for all their hard work, because a lot of players they're right on the verge. In hobby voting this year, I thought there were some players. Adam, for example, Adam Trunzo's army with his display board, his Seraphon army. He kind of did a mix. He had a little bit of order stuff in there, allies, some Stormcast allies with his Seraphon, but his board was amazing. We've already talked about it tonight with his water effects, and he had his Ripperdactyls flying using clear acrylic rod to make them really look like they were in flight over this wall, this cliff face. So it was really a pretty display board, and it was a work in progress too. Really says a lot. So Adam was right up there for best painted. It was a really close competition. Or excuse me, not best painted, best appearance is the award we give. He was right there in the running, and then when it came down to the fans just loved it, So there was a three-way tie for fan favorite, and of those it was Trunzo, it was yourself, Vince, and yourself, Tom, and then it broke out from there. So it was great. No, I take that back, Vince. I don't think you were in the running for fan favorite. You had conversion and then best appearance. And so I don't remember who the other third place tie was. Oh, Dave. I think it was Dave.
I think it was David Griffin. If I look at the points, yeah.
I think it was David. So it was great. And so Adams, when we were judging, we had closed the hall too. This year we had to close the hall door so we as judges could have a private conversation on tie-breaking. We didn't want players to hear what we were having to say, and we wanted to have the armies in front of us. And then when we did the conversion, in years past, sometimes we had taken the models out of the hall and judged them in another area. But this year we wanted to have them under good lights. We had everybody put their conversions up on the Azir table. And that was a really competitive field. Players had the options to nominate one of their models, their conversion, and we had a lot of entries. And it was a good competitive, strong showing for our first year ever. And to be honest, I think I'm going to bring it back. I think that might be a mainstay for Holy Wars. Best conversion.
I think so. I think it should be.
It was great. It was great.
Because so many people do awesome conversions that you see there. Like it's just, it's good to recognize that, because that's like there were so many cool wins up on that table. There really were.
And the unique thing for the other judges, so John and Jason, who were also judging, I kept having to tell them it wasn't about the paint. It was about the creativity. We give a painting award. We give that out with best appearance. And we also give out a painting award, if you will, with fan favorite. So this award is about creativity. Vince, you lost to Stone Monk back at the first Holy Havoc.
I remember.
Yeah, and I remember you being really disappointed, and you came up to me and we talked about it, and it was all about his warlord fit the narrative of that weekend, and he did, and that's what it was about. It was about that kind of creativity of his warlord, and that's what the conversion. So for those players who are thinking about Holy Wars next year, it's not about paint. It's about what that thing looks like and what story it's telling. It's so much more than just the level of painting expertise you're at, So more goes into it, and we had great stuff. It was first, second, and third place. Mike Butcher took first place for his Nurgle maggot looking chariot thing, and then Aaron took second place. Aaron Schmidt with his big, huge Nurgle, and he had all these like worms and stuff that he sculpted, and his army.
Gross.
His army, Aaron's army is on the verge of being something very, very special. I think if he got to the point, I don't know, Vince, if he took the time to really look at his conversions and the sculpting he was doing on some of those models.
I mean, I didn't look closely at it. I'm not going to lie. I can't look at that closely at Nurgle stuff without becoming ill, but sure.
Right. But his stuff, his sculpting and what he did with some of that custom stuff, he's on the verge of like, if he focuses in more of his talent on painting and getting that skill with the brush, I think he's going to be a force to reckon with in the future. For all hobbyists out there. And then Andrea Schwantz, Miss Lucky Sixes, and
Hero Landing.
Rebellion. Huh?
Hero Landing.
The Hero Landing. She won third place, and Vargas just absolutely fell in love with that conversion. He just could not stop talking about it. He just
For those
loved
of you that don't know, she repositioned the Celicent Prime so that it looks like he's coming down and like landing in the very stereotypical like Hero Landing. For those who've seen Deadpool, like he's like Hero Landing, here comes.
Hero Landing. And then she has the rocks flying up from it.
Right. There you go. Like showing the impact. Vince is showing it now, where it looks like he has awesome. Come down and exploded the ground where he's landed.
Right.
And it's a great conversion.
Yeah, she did a great job with it. She did a really job. I mean, myself being somebody who enjoys sculpting and knows the pain that it is when you're doing that first reposition of a leg or changing something, like Andrea's done it before with her Star Drakes. She's got, I think, 2 or 3 of them that she's done repositioning of sculpting, and she's getting better and better and better at it. And that one really just like, yeah, that was really cool. Mm-hmm. So she won third place for best conversion. So best conversion is going to be there again. We're going to do it again. It's going to be a mainstay. Just like Best Warlord is for Havoc. And then we go to our so I think fan favorite, we said Trunzo had won fan favorite. Second place for fan favorite, Vince, I'm looking at
was Bryce.
Bryce, that's right. It was Bryce. Yeah, that was great. Oh yeah, Bryce, and then who was third?
Brad Relian.
Right.
Relian.
So fan favorite this year was off the hook crazy. It was a lot of good stuff, a lot of good competition. The 3-way tie were multiple winners, so we went down to next and so on and so forth. And Bryce was a last minute. I met Bryce at Wapaka, and we actually teamed up in the random team tournament, and that was probably one of my favorite games that weekend. So Bryce is like awesome, just a stellar guy, and told him about the Holy events, and I said, "Hey man, yeah, I got this tournament coming up. You should check it out." And after Wapaka, he checked it out, and then he's like, "Hey Steve, can you put me on the wait list?" I said, "Yeah, sure, man." And then boom, as soon as he got the call that he was in, he was just like, "All right, here you go, boom." So money was gone in the account, done. It was like he was in, and then he showed up, and he had his army. His painting, Bryce's painting is getting there. Like it's stellar. He had that Dread Saur what is it? Dreadsaurian, right?
Dreadsaurian.
The Dreadsaurian. Thank you. The Dreadsaurian, and it was gorgeous, and like you could tell, it's still a work in progress army. He's still doing stuff on it. He's still working on it, but he's got some beautiful stuff in there, beautiful showcase pieces. And then what it turned out for third place, there was, we realized that the original third place winner was going to be awarded something else. And so we had to make a switch on Sunday. It was Sunday morning when those points came out. It was probably after, I think it was after game 4. Yeah, it was after game 4 when we realized that we were going to have a change for third place. And so we, as judges, we went back into the hall. I think people knew something was up because we're walking around and I've got my little I got my little list, and we're looking at these armies and stuff, and we were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And Brad had this really cool conversion he did for his changeling, which I really liked. And so we went back to Brad's army and we were looking at it a little closer and started picking up the models and everything. And then we were going back and forth, and Brad was in the middle of his game, and I can't remember who he was playing, but I'm like, hey dude, where's that model? And he's like, oh, it's right here. And he takes it and he's showing it to us, and we're looking at it. And then we were just sold, and we were like, yeah, this is definitely. So we broke the tie, and Brad earned it. He's been doing a lot of work, and his painting is slowly going up and up and up and up and up. So
I love his Zinch army, like his
it's gorgeous.
Like his demon stuff that wasn't here. He's been doing a great, and you can already tell that this stuff is well on the way to being that. Yeah.
If Brad would, he's got talent with an airbrush.
Yeah.
And all he needs to do now is start doing some lining, some fine lining details, going back in, going over the airbrush, maybe blending doing a little bit of washes over some things to create some more detail in it. And it's really, he's coming along. He's come a long way. So it's good stuff. And Vince, you smirked. Did somebody make a comment online?
Yes. The comment was from was from his opponent during that game, who said it was me. It was me who was being crushed that game.
Who was it?
It was Anthony. Is who
Anthony. Oh, that's one of the Anthony from North Carolina, right? Or South Carolina, or some on the East Coast.
I think he is. Yeah, he is East Coast. Yes, it was.
Coast guy.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Anthony's great. Anthony was awesome. So many great guys to talk about. So. Anthony's a good guy. He was good.
He was getting crushed on the Maw Crusher table, or the Ogre table. It might as well be the Maw Crusher table. That's what it belongs to. Right. So yes, he was on that table.
Yeah, and then so then we have our best. I'm jumping around here. I'm sorry. Then we have our and then for best overall, we had Sean, who won best overall. So I mentioned that earlier in the show.
Unsurprisingly.
Yep. And then
I'll mention this here first because Vince will never do it. Kudos to Vince. Like, he didn't actually have the narrative points, folks. Like, he lost 14 points because he didn't bring a sideboard. We
12,
talked about 12. Sorry, he lost 12. Had he done that, he actually would have placed 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. But still not good enough to get an award for best overall, though.
Perfectly fine. No, I would absolutely look. It is what it is. I didn't earn those points, so I don't get those points.
It's cool. It's cool. Second place was Jake, and then Sean Clark was third place overall. I already mentioned fan favorites. Best appearance was first place was Vince, and second place was Dave Griffin from Nashville.
Who has a fantastic looking, yes, he is from Nashville. Fantastic looking Death Army.
Yeah, I love his greens. Oh.
Yeah. And then Domus took third place for his Iron Jaws, his Lava Iron Jaws.
That's right.
I think he was genuinely surprised by that.
I was just happy to see 2 Iron Jaws representing in the appearance.
For sure.
They are an awesome, like, joking aside or whatever, Iron Jaws really are an awesome palette, an awesome army to do something like best appearance with. You have a relatively controllable model count. They have a lot of big spaces. You can do cool stuff like Domus did, because his army looks great with his, like, they have this big open space. He did these little lava lines in, right? So they have this little, like, cracked lava armor. You can't do that on tiny little itsy bitsy.
And he did it on the raised bits in the armor too.
Yep.
Which is not easy to do. And he also has it very consistent throughout the army. The brush strokes were very consistent. The technique was very consistent. And what I like about it too is it's kind of a stylized approach, which I thought was really, really cool and works well with the Army as well. So I liked it a lot. And then for best sports, we had our first one was Jacob Berry. So that was his first time.
Jacob. I played him first game, and he was just a blast to play.
Yeah.
He is a super fun dude. May I tell a quick Jacob story? I told this already in another video, but I'll repeat it here. Jacob and I had a game. I did a bunch of damage to a big unit of bloodletters he had. The unit of bloodletters was going to explode. But if he rolled the 1, we said, okay, we're not going to lose any models. You'll get a D6 back. I don't care if that's the right rule. That's what we both agreed to. So he's like, well, I don't want to roll the die because I won't roll the 1. You roll the die. And I was like, I don't want to roll the die for you. I don't want you to roll the 1. He's like, okay, we'll roll it together. So he held the die, and then I put out my hand, and we shook it like this, like his hand and my hand. And then we rolled it together and got the 1 for him. And I was like, well, there you go, buddy.
Awesome. That's great. And so he got first place. And then second place, best sports, was Tom McClure. And he gave me a big old manly bear hug, and then he kissed me, which was surprising.
Surprise.
And, it was very cute. Michelle really loved it. Tom's he's one of my dearest friends, and Michelle just absolutely adores Tom. And so that was really great that he won best sports. He did not get my vote because he was playing Nurgle.
It's understandable. Yeah, you gotta get the Nurgle negative.
Nurgle negative. And then third place best sports was Anthony.
Yep.
We just talked about a great guy. All those guys, all the new guys were just fabulous guys, and we would welcome them back for sure. It was great. The entire weekend was great. We raised close to $800 for the charity. So we're going to be feeding some homeless again. Dropped the money off this past week, actually on Monday, and they were positively thrilled. So between the 2 events now, Holy Havoc and from last year and Holy Wars, we've raised over 1,000 for the homeless. So that's great. And that's, one of the reasons I do the event. And it was great. The other big news, which was unique, and we failed to mention it, was that we raffled off some terrain. We raffled off some Holy Wars terrain. What I'm going to be doing now, I can't guarantee it's going to happen for every tournament, but it seemed to be a success. Not entirely sure Christian was excited to win the terrain. I couldn't tell by his reaction, but there were certainly.
I was heartbroken.
Yeah,
shut up, Tom. Shut up, Tom. He was heartbroken. He's sitting on a stack. He won 4 different raffles, and he's like,
right.
"Oh, I didn't win a 5th."
Right. So I think he was excited. I hope he was. If not, I would hope that he would donate it to somebody else if he wasn't excited.
Christian, if you're watching this, I'll take the train.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I'll trade you. I'll trade you the monster boxes for it.
Yeah, right. Maybe you should have said something.
I should have totally said something in the moment.
Told him.
I just didn't think about it.
I think he was excited by it, but it was good. It was it seemed like there was a lot of energy around wanting to win that, and as we move forward down the line, we'll be looking at that. So for Holy Wars next year, there'll be a new table. It's going to be a very different table. I kind of tweeted a little picture, a test.
I saw. It looks good.
Yeah, kind of a little kind of mocked up kind of thing. You're going to be fighting both above ground and underground or in a kind of like mountain hole kind of thing. I don't know what yet, but we'll see. Anyway, yeah. So it was good. So Holy Wars continues to evolve, and we're gonna try to keep that tradition alive too, where we'll start, maybe, like I said, raffling off bits and pieces of terrain that we no longer use, and give that back to the community as well. So
absolutely. Well, hey, look, man, it was an awesome time. We got to close it off here, unfortunately, but it was great. I will be there at Holy Havoc. As I said, this army that I'm already priming right now, buddy. This is what it's for. Like the day after Holy Wars, Holy Havoc prep begins. That's how it goes. So that is the hobby axis upon which my army building turns.
If I have not already, begun prep for Holy Wars for next year. to the degree that I've already not only concepted up my army and my board, but I've reached out to a 3D sculptor who's going to do custom pieces for it.
The Cold War begins. All right, here we go. Let the arms race begin. So, but no, it was awesome, man. I had a super amount of fun. I say this to everybody. I'll post the links down below for the tournament, for the sign up. If you get a chance, you should be there. Like, if you can in any way, shape, or form get yourself to the Chicagoland area to attend this tournament, either one of them, either the teams or the solo, do it. Don't hesitate. Don't wait. You will have one of the most positive, fulfilling tournament experiences of your life. So whether you're new or whether you've been gaming for a long time, it is an amazing, amazing experience. So I cannot recommend it enough. So there you go.
Thanks, guys. And one more thing, just big thanks, big shout out to Jason Vargas, get Warhammered on Twitter, and then John Ellis, and those are the two holy hammers that are critical to the success of the event. I get a lot of the glory. They do a lot of the heavy lifting for me on the weekend, and without them, it totally would be much more difficult to do. And then to my lovely wife, Belle. Without her, none of this would have been really ultimately possible, because she endures this madness that is Warhammer. Yeah.
And with a smile the whole time. She was there and interested, and very, very cool person. So there you go.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. For everybody else, thank you for watching. Much appreciated. Don't worry, we'll be talking about Holy Havoc as we approach, because I imagine you're going to hear lots of discussions of armies being created. But we'll have Steve back probably leading up to the team tournament, because that's usually a whole different bag, because the scenarios are different for Holy Havoc, given what they are. And so we'll have you on beforehand to talk about how you want to do the scenarios when you release the scenario pack and stuff like that. Yeah. So for all of you, appreciate you watching. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.